Hello. Hello, everyone. This isn't temporal, even though it is temporal stream. I'm Rob, and I'm here with Kaya. And
Hello.
we're going to be today covering Ruddy versus Gran Turismo in the Aurora Cup Open. Kaya, are you excited for today?
I'm so ecstatic. We are about to witness history in the making with the clash of two unbelievable titans of the NLC scene. Obviously, Ruddy Sports on one side, Gran Turismo on the other side. What more could you ask for on a really stormy Monday evening?
Of course. I mean, we always ask with Ruddy, can they do it on a rainy night at Stoke? We'll have to see if they can do it on a rainy night, and I don't know where they are in the country, to be honest with you today. But
Exactly.
going into today, who would you say are favourites? Because for me, obviously, Ruddy coming from Div 1, they have got a few different players than the Div 1 roster was before. But I would say that Ruddy must be coming in today as pretty strong favourites, right?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be an interesting one. Obviously, we've been able to see this Gran Turismo lineup play in the first stage of the Aurora Cup, the play-ins. So we can get a kind of idea of what they look like from those games that we've seen. On the other side, like you said, Ruddy have gone through quite a few roster changes. Obviously, the only player staying from the roster from summer is Shihan, the top laner. Everyone else is brand new to the roster, so we'll have to kind of see how that roster has gelled, whether they've had time to practice or have any team bonding experiences. Who knows what the Ready Camp do to bring their players together? I can
Uh,
only imagine.
yeah, I mean, hopefully there hasn't been any too many, owner shouting sessions this time for this roster. Maybe they'll have bonded even more than before. We don't know. But
We'll
again,
have to see how they have to be a halftime team talk from the big man upstairs or not. He might have to like pause his stream just to give some words of encouragement if things don't go too well in game one, maybe.
I mean, this time though, with the change in jungle, there will not be any Master Yi's, which is
But
just
where but where has Toaster gone? Where
exactly.
where is Toaster?
I mean, maybe it was just one too many owner team talks. It was just too much. It was too much for them, and the only reason Sheehan has stayed is because he's making bank with Don Jake. We don't know.
Who
We don't
knows?
know.
Who knows?
Who knows?
That's all speculation.
That's all
That's not been
speculation. That
proven.
says, please don't sue me. That was not libel. No. But again, today we're going to have some interesting bits. It is going to be on 13-19, so there hasn't been any competitive that I've seen really on 13-19 of any kind of level. Obviously, we know that Worlds will be on it, but again, the last competitive high level competition we'll have seen will have been on 13-12 with the Asia Games. Is there any picks today you're excited for? We know that I think you were saying just before we started about Senna, obviously maybe coming through. Anything else at all? Anything you're excited
Yeah.
for?
I don't think it's changed all too much in terms of what picks that we're going to be seeing. As you said, I think Senna's probably the biggest standout, and obviously with Senna comes quite a lot of very fun, interactive duo lanes. A lot of past we've seen Senna Garens, Cho'Gath, the old Senna Scion when you can just boot a minion at the opposition to root them. So obviously, whenever Senna kind of comes back into the meta, it's always an interesting time to see what creative ways players can come up with in order to utilize that champion to its full potential. But other than that, I think we're going to be seeing very much the same. I think your Tristanas are still going to be there. Bot lane meta kind of seems quite similar in terms of like Kai'Sa being around Zaya, all of those kind of usual champions. We'll have to see what kind of picks these guys do want to prioritize, because obviously the biggest change for this competition is the fearless draft.
Yeah, with Fearless Draft, obviously you aren't going to be able to pick the same champions you picked in the round before. So they're going to have a few different draft strategies. Maybe they've decided on some specific team comps. Maybe
Mm.
maybe some specific combos. I mean, I've seen there was obviously there was like an LS and his friends and all those guys. They did some Fearless Draft games, and you see some interesting stuff where suddenly people are playing Malphite Yasuo and these kind of combos. Which again, when you're going down that tier list, you start going away from being what's really strong individually to what's strong as a team combo as a combo. I mean, the other thing I just want to bring back on this patch is that we do see that LeBlanc has been massively nerfed, right, for this AD LeBlanc build. This is the patch where she is nerfed, so if any of these top laners were cringe enough to be playing AD LeBlanc top and just running it down top lane over and over again and just causing an absolute headache for people, that is gone. That cannot be played anymore. Like the laning phase is just abysmal. Shiv nerfs, again, the attack speed changes. I imagine, my opinion, again, whether it matters or not, is that I think she's even though she got some AP ratio buffs in 5% on W, 5% on E, her laning is so much worse now with the attack speed changes. She's not going to be harassing you anywhere near as much with autos, which a normal AP LeBlanc would do anyway. I think that champion has kind of fallen off. Maybe you see some players, maybe some players might pick her up full AP, maybe. But I think that champion is gone. Good riddance, because that champion was absolutely disgusting. I hate Shiv.
How dare LeBlanc players think that they can have fun and
absolutely, of course,
have any joy in life? Obviously, we weren't just seeing LeBlanc players pick that Shiv up. There were so many. I think pretty much every AD carry was putting it at some point. All the range top laners were picking it up as well. So it just made the meta really quite horrible to play.
Very, very boring to watch as well. When all they're doing is shiving lanes and then just running around hoping to get a pick. I mean, again, with that AD split pushing LeBlanc was also just playing against it's horrible. Watching it is funny to some extent, but then after a certain point in time, there's only so much Wing, autoing, and then Wing back again you can really watch. Hopefully, you're saying also about Tristana. We have seen on this patch the Randuin's buff. That was meant to be for some reason. Again, I'm not too sure Riot's ideas here, but they want to bring back maybe some of these tank mids that may be able to play into Tristana. 300 gold off that. Maybe we see some interesting, with Fearless Draft especially, maybe we end up seeing some interesting picks in mid lane. People like to think about Nautilus mid and these kind of champions, maybe with the buff. I hope we do see some interesting stuff today, actually, because with it being Fearless, hopefully they aren't just going to sit there and go, well, you get Maokai game 1, we'll get Maokai game 2, you get this chat. I just don't want to see that. I don't want to see that Rel Alistair handshakes and all this kind of stuff. I want to see some good League of Legends. I want to see some interesting picks coming through, because this is, I know it's the winter. I know Aurora Cup obviously is the most prestigious of tournaments,
of course,
in the NLC. Going undefeated in summer for Venom Crest, that means nothing if they don't win a Aurora Cup, of course.
Exactly. This is the measurement in which heroes are made and legends are created. I mean, Worlds will be coming up soon, but no one's really that interested in all of that stuff that's going on. Exactly. Who wants to watch Gen G and all that when we can be watching Ruddy Esports versus Gran Turismo to kick off this amazing competition? And who knows, maybe there's a cup or something that someone can win, maybe a little medal or something. You get in those party bags at birthday parties or something. Maybe they can get something like that.
Hopefully Don Jake does give some stuff to his players. I know he's given t-shirts out in the past to the painkillers he takes to Insomnia. Hopefully there's some interesting t-shirts that might come out for if they win Aurora Cup. I would love to see that. I'd love to see. Some of his designs have been absolutely excellent. As we all know, he does believe in a bit of Deichball himself, so he does like football references. But this is not that team. This is in fact Ruddy's team for Aurora Cup. So we've got Shihan, Nat, Cronin, Adebayor and Briefcase Man with on the side of Ruddy, and then we got Nipla, Mixie, Mikma, Hoys, and Yepu on Yepahu? I can't remember. Yepe. We'll call him Yepe. On the side of Gran Turismo, and the first bans have come through. We see Rel and Tristana banned out for Ruddy, and we see Rengar banned out for Gran Turismo.
Yeah, so obviously on the side of Ruddy, it does look like we're targeting meta here. On the side of Gran Turismo, the Rengar is obviously a little nod to Nutty Nat. That's probably something that he's a bit proficient at. So GT kind of wanting to get rid of something that Ruddy can utilize, as something that their jungler is obviously very, very comfortable on in that situation. So we'll see a mixture of those kind of bans come in and out throughout the game. It'll be a mixture of what's meta, but also what is players really, really efficient on, or what their kind of OTPs are. So we'll have to see what the last ban is for the red side, and then obviously Ruddy will be giving us their B1.
Absolutely. I mean, the other thing interesting with this patch, you say, Shiv did get nerfed. Kai'Sa, she does go sometimes that Umbral build. Seeing her banned out, again, I'm not quite sure on her strength. Senna, we did bring it up just before the draft. This champion is pretty crazy right now, and especially when you've got someone like Briefcase Man, who is a Mundo OTP, but not secretly a Mundo OTP in the bot lane. Maybe there was concerns about he could play the top lane champions, but a Jarvan B1 or stuff like Ezreal and Zerius still on the board. we'll have to see where GT go.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that we were seeing as well in the play-ins was a lot of big kind of wombo combo comps. A lot of teams kind of just went towards what was an ease of execution. I know during promotions for Venom Crest, Jarvan Oriana was a really horrible duo to kind of have with the easy execution for her ultimate and obviously for her bull. So we'll have to see if Ruddy are cooking something up like that they want to pair with the Jarvan. GT, obviously, Hoy's going to pick up the Ezreal there, so obviously the E is pretty nice for escaping Jarvan's Cataclysm and everything like that, so a nice pickup, and looks like Mixie's going to be answering the Jarvan with his Viego.
And the big thing about filler draft, which we will have to come back to because it is a format that we haven't seen much, if at all, in competitive league, is that you've got to be careful if you start picking a massive number of S tier or S plus champions, right? If you start picking the Jarvan, then you start picking Oriana, which is going up in prior with a lot of the buffs she's had. She starts to come up to a premier mid laner. You pick like the Renekton top. You start running a draft that they're all really great champs. You might you win game one, but then you start running out of steam. You don't have these champions that are considered to be so good in those roles. We'll have to see. The Xayah coming through is interesting to me when obviously you're not seeing a total draft of like short range coming out from the side of GT. You've only really got the Viego yet, but Xayah Rakan as a duo, that's often seen as S plus through the whole of play-ins. So many teams are just picking this up 1-2 on red side, so I can't imagine that it's going to be any different coming into the games today.
No, exactly, and I mean Rakan's been a premier support with any sort of AD carry you pair it with for what feels like so long. Looks like GT are going to answer. Yepe's going to pick up the Braum into the Xayah Rakan, so that's a pretty nice pickup there. We'll have to see where each team wants to target now, whether they're going to be targeting the champ pools of the mid laners or the top laners with these next couple bans.
I mean, stuff like Renekton's still on the board. That's a premier top laner.
Yeah.
Jax is on the board. Yes, Cassante, I'd have to see how well that might perform nowadays. Then in mid, Oriana's still available. I mean, Tristana is taken off, and then when you start going down that tier list, obviously Aatrox is another premier top laner we're seeing. That's getting a little bit more popularity at the moment. So I do imagine if you do target top pool here, at least it leaves you some picks, I guess, for the next games. But it would also be something where, if I'm the side of Ruddy here, I'd probably look at taking maybe a Renekton off the board or a Gnar or something here, which we can sort of, are you going to go for a counter pick for Nippler in top? It might be more than Mikmo, who does have a really interesting pool. He can play the mages. He does have a pocket Yone as well. We'll have to see if they give the counter pick to top mid GT or whether they give the counter pick to mid, because both of those are viable options at the moment with the fact that Ruddy hasn't shown either of their solos.
Yeah, and there goes the Oriana, so something that we said could pair up. Obviously, Ruddy looked like they were going that way anyway with the Rakan and Jarvan. So that one's been taken completely off the board, and looks like they're going to prioritize Mikma here with an Ahri hover. So it would be nice to see that one pick up. Ahri and Viego have been like a pair that had been creeping around the meta for quite a while now. So it's still not jumped completely down out of priority. So we'll have to see if that gets locked in for GT. And looks like, nope, they're just going to ignore everything I said. And they're going to lock in a weak side top laner for Nippler.
And I mean, here now, even if you go the Renekton, Ornn can deal with that matchup. Don't forget, Renekton did get nerfed on this patch. A little bit less magic resist means that those lanes are a little bit harder for him. Interested to see if they do go for a blind Xerath, actually, because this is something where Xerath is often seen as a counter pick. Hovering, it makes a lot of sense. I do like stuff like Xerath. Okay, that is very ballsy from Cronin. Given that, again, there's still on the board that you could play into this Xerath, and you're into this Ornn, who can reach the Xerath. But it shows confidence, and I like to see that. Now I have to see where Shihan goes in the top lane. It is just, I would say, Renekton, Cassante are the two other premier top laners. Renekton comes through. And we'll have to see if they do want to go. I mean, Ahri into Xerath can be frustrating for the Ahri. You've got stuff like Ziggs, can get a little bit outpoked. Going down the list, you could go for something else. No, they're going for the Ahri. That's a very quick lock-in as well. They didn't even really consider that much else there. I mean, these drafts overall, which one are you preferring? Because for me, I'm much bigger fan of Ruddy's draft here. I think it's just a lot more consistent, a lot more, meta, so to speak. But on the side of GT, they've got a lot of pop-off champions here. You've got the Viego, the Ahri, and even someone like Ezreal, who might struggle to even be touched by the side of Ruddy.
Yeah, I mean, you've obviously got the Jarvan lockdown, but who's he locking down from the side of GT here? I mean, the Ezreal E, Ahri can just ult out, Viego can if he wants to use it that way. I think as well, this this kind of game is going to be very much based on who can get to objectives first, who's going to have that vision control. As well, the first kill for GT is going to be quite important for resets for both Ari and Viego. Ease of execution for the, I guess, mid jungle on that side is quite good if Ari can hit her E's, her charms. So we'll have to see on that side. I do worry a little bit about the side of GT's damage. Ari notoriously doesn't output a load. Ezreal, it depends on how much Hoyes can hit his skill shots and everything. So we'll have to see how that plans out on that side. But I think it is I'm mainly swinging towards the side of Ruddy in a sense, because I just think that their comp can be put together a bit easier. I think the Xerath's got a nice little bit of range. They can peel back for the Xayah, but they also have go tools with the Jarvan and the Rakan, obviously.
I mean, and again, with something like your Renekton super stable top laner, he's not going to sit there and hard lose lane to something like an Ornn unless there's a massive mistake that comes through. With the side of GT, at least they do have these resets, as you said. It's whether, how these fights come down. You do have the Ornn able to make space, so maybe you start seeing, the first reset comes through, maybe the Renekton extends too far forwards, gets taken down, and then you start seeing these resets coming from GT. My biggest concern is, other than the Ornn ult, how are you even going to be reaching this Seraph unless you're burning multiple dashes on the Ahri to get to him? You're going to have to start looking for maybe flanks with a Viego. Braum is not someone who can really start, forcing engages without having a target of his own to jump to, or using his flash. So trying to lock down this Xerath could be really, really hard. If that Ornn ult doesn't come through and knock him down, and he get the follow-up onto him, he could just be free-firing every fight.
I think that's where it will be very much on how GT plays these team fights. Can they make these team fights multi-dimensional? So where they've got the Ahri and Fog of War, they don't know where it is. You've got a nice front line in the Ornn as well. So we'll have to just see how they pilot out as a team. As we've said, when we were talking about these rosters, we have seen what GT can offer. We haven't yet been able to see Ruddy. So this first game is definitely going to be a bit of a measuring tool for, I think, Ruddy more so than GT, because we sort of can expect from these players on the side of GT. There's quite a lot of names on the side of Ruddy that we're not all too familiar with. Obviously, Shihan is probably the only name that people will recognize if they've been around, obviously, League of Legends for a short amount of time. Obviously, the bot lane as well for Ruddy is English as well. But some very names that, if you've been around the scene for a while, you might recognize, but also some brand new names that we've never actually been able to see play before.
I mean, people like Natty Nat, right? I know he's a very high, I think 16, 1700, 1800 LP jungler, but it's, how does he do it in competitive, right? I'd have to have a quick look to see previous teams or things like this. I don't imagine having a look that he has too many, but if you've picked him up, you've got to have a lot of confidence here if you're ready, because obviously, again, you're a Div 1 team. You're representing, you're one of those big UK orgs. You managed to make a name for yourself with your online memes and your sense of humor. You've also got to show it on the Rift, right? You've got to show that you're competitive. We see a level 1 trade already, and there's already dead in the bot lane, but Hoyes here could get a double kill. Oh, it's a disaster.
Oh no,
it's a disaster. Oh my lord. How when you say Xayah Rakan, you say Ezreal Braum, I don't necessarily... you see some level 1 shenanigans from the Xayah Rakan, but for it to blow back in their face like that is a disaster already for Ruddy.
Yeah, normally if we're going to see any trading like that, it's going to be over the level 2 mark, especially with the kind of Xayah Rakan as well. So to see some very questionable decisions being made already is going to feel quite bad. We got a lot of summoners being blown there as well, so this bot lane is like completely now blown open. We could see it going either two ways. Obviously, Hoyes is a massive beneficiary of those early kills, but Ezreal over Xayah, I think I'd rather have Xayah having the kind of early kills than the Ezreal, because Ezreal can just like back, and all he's going to really get from it is like a tier or some like scaling items, whereas Xayah is just going to go straight into like the damage and very hurt. But we're seeing a lot of trading across this map, so neither team really wanting to play this early game nice and slowly.
Yeah, just lots and lots of fighting. We do see how, if you look how the junglers are pathing, this Viego can't necessarily interact with this bot lane. You know, all the summoners were blown on the side already. Shihan's already mid lane for Migma as well, having got the pushing in top. But this Jarvan is going to be on this bot side here, maybe to blow open this lane, at least in the favor of Ruddy, because obviously they weren't the beneficiaries of the trade initially. But now maybe Natty Nat can look for something here. This isn't Ezreal. It is a lot harder to lock him down, but maybe with blowing the flash, with the flag and drag, the Rakan may be able to look for something with the Hex Flash. They are going here. If they get something, this could turn the lane back in their favor.
The slow's good. The slow's really nice from Yepe,
Nothing.
and no. Oh, they're still really reaching for it. I don't think this is going to actually end up being much other than a lot of damage being put onto the Jarvan and the Rakan. It's one of those where it's on a knife's edge with these kind of teams. We don't know what to expect, so we don't know whether they're just going to turn and just go straight in. But yeah, it's not the best. I didn't really think the gank would work in that sense. It just looked like GT were in a nice position. They had the vision to be able to see Natty Nat's actual intentions there. And this is going to obviously cost him that bot side Scuttle Crab, and he's just going to get a base off here to go spend some of that gold from his first clear.
I mean, right now, like the nice sidestep there from Yepe as well. We're seeing that these GT players, they're warmed up, right? They are available to play this game. They're here. They're in the moment. Sometimes, you see some teams, they get through play-ins and they go, we've done our job. We managed to get through, we managed to get to the tournament, and they kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit sometimes. But they're here to actually fight Ruddy all around the map and be able to outplay that gank. Yes, they see it on vision. Shows that Ruddy, maybe they need to come up with something else here. Maybe they need to look for leads somewhere else on the map. As we said, this Xerath could be a potential option for carrying them through, the mid and late game. But you're going to have to get to that point, and if you are seeing an Ezreal that's very fed, Hoyes is an excellent ADC. This guy looks so good in NLC Div 3 last year. He was a sub for, Verdant. He was on Verdant Bloom, now Gran Turismo, and this guy had great Aphelios and a great Ezreal every time I'd seen him play. So, he is going to be able to potentially use this gold very, very well. He isn't a weak side ADC. He is able to carry games. They have to be really careful here that they don't put too much more in his back pocket, because if you look at that gank, a bit more gold on this Ezreal, he'd have a few more items. Maybe they could even look to turn it and maybe get a kill themselves. You've got to be careful here if you are the side of Ruddy about overextending or maybe forcing a bit too hard.
Yeah, it'll be dangerous territory for probably the next couple of minutes until maybe flashes start coming back, or maybe Xayah starts getting some gold back. Obviously, because of that play as well, we missed out on a lot of the kind of CS from the early stages. So already at a small disadvantage. This is obviously a little bit of Migma seeing where the jungler for Ruddy is, but that's just a kind of sense of their early vision that they put down. We saw our producer be able to switch the vision over that GT had kind of put in the bot side, and that just shows that they're aware of Ruddy's intentions to maybe look for another play in the bot side. So they were able to kind of get the push in, and then you saw Yepe move with Mix up into that bot side jungle and get some vision down.
And this could be a 5-man play on bot side here. Hoyes to step out on the flag and drag. They've got to get over this wall. And they're alive. They actually all get out alive despite 5 members of Ruddy being here. They will look to secure this dragon.
Yeah, I mean, a lot kind of, not necessarily a lot used. I thought initially that Shihan had TP down for that play, but I've just seen his TP is up. He just kind of moved from base into that play. So obviously they did look for some form of priority and then try to maybe turn it into a dragon, but they didn't actually net anything from that play. And GT have yet again full control over the bot side, and a lot of trading as well still going on between these two bot laners.
Viego is here to get this gank off. He is going to be able to stun up Briefcase Man this time.
Nice.
Adebayor survives, but unfortunately Briefcase Man falls again. I mean, this is something where you want to get this gold onto this Viego as well, who's been allowed to farm, right? This Jarvan has tried to make plays happen twice bot lane, and all Viego's had to do is he's just cycled his camps over and over again, and he is going to be able to he's going to have a decent enough CS lead here because he's got his whole bot side to take. But in this comp, he's one of those carries, right? Viego is someone who we were saying, he needs to pop off in these team fights. Once they get one pick, they could look to snowball. They have the ability to do that, right, with the Ahri, with the Viego, and they should be on track to at least try and make that game plan work, with the Viego being to be ahead of the Jarvan himself. I just hope that they can actually realise this, because I'm hoping to get a great game 1 where we do get some interesting drafts coming into the other games, but this game 1 has been, you'd have thought Ruddy would have been more in control, in the lead with their sort of history as an org, but right now it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, and again, the Jarvan going into the GT kind of lineup as well is a bit. It was a bit of a hard one from the draft originally that we said. We are seeing a Herald contest. We've got a move from both supports coming up. The Ezreal ult committed as well, but that is a burst down from Yepe, but he's still alive here.
He still lives! And that falls as well.
Oh,
This is a disaster for Ruddy. They are going to lose this Herald as well. There is a Xerath to poke them out, but he's got no mana. Very little mana. And that's going to be a team fight win for Gran Turismo. And
yeah.
We were saying how we felt Ruddy's comp maybe was a bit more solid, right? You know, they had a little bit more defined win conditions. They got a really hyper carry in the form of the Xerath for those late game fights. But GT are bringing it to them in this game one.
Yeah, and this Viego's just accelerating and accelerating. Got that early kill in the bot line. There's another kill there in that fight, and he takes the Rift Herald as well. So that most likely will be put into the back pocket of Hoyes, just to kind of try and get this Ezreal even more accelerated. But the team fight there, very questionable from Ruddy. They think they can burst down Yepe, but they realise that he is very tanky at this stage still. They do manage to get it, but at that expense, they've blown all of Cronon's mana in order to get it. So he can't really affect the team fight past that point. And what they end up doing is they end up turning straight onto the Jarvan. The Jarvan gets exploded as well. He's out the fight. The Rakan as well goes down really quickly. Loads of damage from the Ahri, from the Viego as well. Really nice decision making from GT in order who they're going to prioritize in the team fight, enables them to net a nice kill lead now, kill onto the Ornn as well, and they also have the Herald in their back pockets.
I mean, and you think about it, and the focus, oh my lord, almost getting 1v1 here, Shihan by Nippler. But the focus, as you see, is far better from the side of GT. Like we're saying, well, they had to blow everything to get Yepe. He's the support. He's Braum. He's done his job. As they're going back in on the Xayah now, and they're just punishing this bot lane. There's nothing for Ruddy to really do to blow this open. As Mixie is here, he is counter-ganked here by Natty Nat. We'll have to see if they can get anything. Adebayor has to blow the ultimate. You'd imagine that. Oh my lord!
Nice, really nice understanding from Viego. There, just turns around and goes, "Okay, you've used your ult, bang!
I'm just gonna kill you." I mean, this game, we thought Ruddy would come up with something, and so far they've been answered at every turn. And it's this bot lane here from GT that have just looked so good. And then the jungle from Mixie, they played a lot together, Hoyes and Mixie, and they're the two carries this game.
Yeah, a lot of their success had come from these two, and obviously Mikma as an enabler. In that play, he does rotate as well down to the bot side, but he is really not needed. The damage from Hoyes and the Viego from Mixie as well is enough to be able to secure that kill. They end up focusing for obviously the Dragon. They're going to get backs off, and now we'll have to see where they decide to use this Rift Herald, or when they're going to use this Rift Herald, as obviously you don't really want it timing out.
No, not. I mean, you do need to use it at some point. I think we were saying about putting it into the back pocket of Hoyes. You could also maybe just use it to get gold onto the Viego himself. That could be an option here. He's already got his Kraken Slayer online, going to be working towards what I could see to be like a Trinity Force, for example. Maybe he could go another crit item as well with that dagger. We see a fight again in the bot lane. They just want to keep fighting all day. And who's to stop them, really? Look, Ruddy are just running away with the tail between the legs. And they are going to fall as well, maybe. Oh my god, Briefest One does body block the Q. Adebayor survives with a sliver HP. That would have been one dead Xayah if that Q had landed. And I mean, Xerath is trying, but he's not in range. So needs to learn the range on that ultimate, maybe.
Yeah, that's I think maybe Ruddy are getting to the stage where they're not too sure how to kind of get back into this game. We're seeing a lot of very questionable positioning, mainly from, like you said, the bot lane of Ruddy. Cronin decision there to I'm not too sure. Maybe he's trying to put the fear back into GT. But that kind of play there, that's just confidence from GT. Yepe hopping over, knowing that his Ezreal is so much further ahead than this Xayah. He knows that he can just tank that up completely, and Hoyes can get it within range really quickly in order to affect that. And we almost just saw them going down to a 2v2 there. Wouldn't be the best look for Ruddy if that were to happen. It becomes increasingly harder to claw back into the game as this game does go on. You're going to get the ornaments as well. Ezreal really nice scaling as well. So this game starts to become a lot harder the kind of later we kind of go in as well.
And I mean, as you said there, with the ornaments coming online, this top lane matchup I was going to quickly touch on, nothing is happening, and that favours the Ornn. So that right now, it looks like GT are in the driver's seat. They are trading again in bot lane, which I think for Ruddy is a bit of a mistake. Maybe they need to figure out something here. They need to bring some players down here. They need to make something happen where they can kind of bail this bot lane out. Because right now, it's just not going their way. And you'd see that, again, for a team that Div 1, NLC, they talk the talk, Ruddy, a lot of the time. But at the moment, they're not walking the walk. And they need to come up with something. Nat's bot again, but it's going to be so hard to lock this bot lane down. They have to try onto the Braum because the Ezreal, he's just going to be able to leave.
Yeah, and we're seeing it there. Ult used from the Rakan, and the lockdown just isn't enough. Nat was nowhere near that play to be able to affect it. We are seeing the extension from Yepe, so this is something that can be punishable. Ult used from the Jarvan, but that's just an E out. Hoyes is alive, Yepe is alive. That is a lot of time and resources expended from Ruddy. Let's have a look across the map of what GT are able to do. Push into mid, and Nippler is absolutely fine just soaking that wave up from Shihan. So, again, nothing really gained from these plays that Ruddy are kind of investing their time and resources into.
They only burnt the Braum flash.
Yeah.
They didn't get the cleanse from the Ezreal. They didn't even get the flash from the Ezreal there. You thought maybe that the Ezreal Arcane should have been used earlier. It hadn't. He managed to get out of Jarvan's ultimate with that ability. So both sums available still for the ADC, and you've invested a lot of time here on this Jarvan. I mean, they're going to have to figure out something soon. Over this second Herald, maybe. Mixie is caught a bit far. He is going to be caught out. He's going to be shut down. Nice. This is the play that Ruddy needed. And if you're GT here, can you extend this play? Probably not. You're just going to have to go... Maybe go get Dragon in a minute. Maybe go and try and get some waves in. But you're not going to be able to contest this Herald. There's just 5 members here. You're all in his bot. Don't want to burn TP. So Ruddy do have some life in this game, getting that pick onto the jungler GT.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Seraph
doing, and not this.
The
ease for GT's play, and it looks like we're also going to see some more fighting. Shihan, nice idea, nice damage onto Hoyes, but I don't think he's going to have any of the range to be able to get that kill. Nat is here, but he has no ult. Oh, he does have ult backup actually, but he's not going to use it there. And yeah, really nice play from Ruddy, then questionable decision making.
I mean, you've already committed to the Herald. You've got to imagine with GT and the team that they have so much mobility. If you are that Xerath and you're going to stand underneath your turret, why would the Ahri not just dash into your face and charm you? Yeah. I think that's almost like a disrespect on what an enemy team can do. You see a lot of teams do this. They think, we've already won the play, guys, it's fine. But then some people think it's playing off tempo. Some people think, it's being a little bit risky. But for these guys, they know you're on Herald. They're going to barrel it down mid lane. They've got to get something off the map, having lost, their jungler before the Herald. And to disrespect that and to not think what the enemy can do is a bit of a concern, given that you made the play to bring yourself back in, and immediately GT take more gold off the map, picking up your mid and your support.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to know if GT had the timer for Cronon's flash as well, to be able to go for that play, because obviously they are at the fear of overcommitting there, especially under his tower there. So that must have been some form of communication that his flash wasn't available for the confidence to be able to go for that play. But from the kind of after effects of the play, we are seeing the top lane of GT was taken. That was taken by, I think Shihan took it after the Herald play, whilst everyone else kind of went to mid, potentially. Obviously, the trade for tier 1s, the bot as well was taken.
Oh my, the damage!
Yeah, this is very hard for Ruddy. They are catching them here. We could see a play, but the play is now expired.
I mean, despite the fact that Ruddy have managed to pick up the Herald and that previous Dragon, it does look like they're still playing they're playing reactively here. Like GT is still looking for plays in the enemy jungle. They're still playing more aggressive than you'd say Ruddy are playing. Ruddy are having to group up as 4, sacrifice some gold, some XP on sides, just to be able to make something happen to try and keep themselves in this game. Migma's been pushing in bot here, so they sent Adebayor to actually push that wave back out again. And then this just gives control over the topside jungle to GT. And now Shihan has to be a little bit concerned here because yes, the Jarvan's on topside, but there's 4 members, potentially 5, coming up here from GT, and Shihan is in currently no man's land, surrounded by 4 members. Okay, he's gonna get out.
He is a Renekton, so he is quite slippery. But obviously, this is just the difference that having that tier 1 mid has for a side like GT. They have the ability to push the wave a lot deeper into Ruddy's kind of area, so it allows them to go for a lot more deeper vision in these plays. Obviously, Nippler has a lot more confidence knowing, as you said, he's got 4 other members or 3 other members in that top side Ruddy jungle, so he can overextend and go for that tower there. So it's really nice play from GT to be able to identify that, and also how can they extend their lead from that point, because a lot of teams they do really well in this early game, as we've seen. As we can see there, gold leads on both AD carry and jungle, exactly where you want them to be for the side. Even the top lane as well, Ornn is about 400 gold, so it's not even like the Ornn's been pushed so far behind that this Renekton is an absolute monster. No, it's actually the opposite. But it's really nice to see a team be able to identify certain map states to be able to extend their lead, really. A lot of teams do get into this stage and struggle with identifying, right, how can we go back onto the map and kind of extend the kind of lead that we've created for ourselves.
And yeah, sometimes you see that it's almost like a fear, right? They're like, okay, we've got the lead. How do we maintain the lead? And then it ends up being that the team that doesn't have the lead, they're able to actually make plays happen. Mixie gets caught again here, though. He is looking to get out. Yepe is here in support. Mixie is caught, does end up using the Heartbreaker to get out. And nothing ends up happening at all. They just use explosive ultimates. They're going to do a bit of poke. A bit of damage comes down. Oh my gosh, a lot of damage coming down, mind you. And Yepe is forcing them out again. But yeah, we're seeing here that GT aren't scared to push their advantage. They aren't worried about, okay, if we make this fight happen, is it going to go badly for us? They're just going to keep pushing, keep getting that line of vision up, keep looking for picks, keep trying to make plays across the map around objectives, which again, Ruddy have been trying to answer, and lesser teams to how Ruddy has been playing. They did get that second Herald. They did manage to pick up that Dragon. They have managed to, they put the Herald bot side. Some teams would fall apart at the sort of macro decisions that Ruddy have been making, but GT have not, as they're going straight for this Baron. Nippler's here to sort of bodyguard to stop them from coming in. They still have the Ornn ultimate available. It is going to be hard for Ruddy to enter into this. And Natty Nat's going to have to look for a steal, I think. Yepe's very low, though.
Yeah, it looks like the decision is a turn for Ruddy. They do have the range of the Xerath to be able to make a play here. Looks like they are going to be able to catch Hoys at the back end of this. So this is a very favourable decision for Ruddy to have. Cronin does go down to the side of Mikma, so there goes that kind of multi-dimensional team fight that we saw. So that's Mikma being able to identify where the Xerath is and be able to kind of flank him. But yeah, interesting decision from GT. I don't think you actually need to make that decision. We will have Dragon coming up relatively soon as well. You've got a really nice map state. You're getting a lot of really nice deep vision in Ruddy's kind of jungle. You don't need to be forcing a Baron like that, especially when you do have a Xerath. You've got that ability to have really, really long kind of damage output as well. So that's the questionable one. And a lot of the time in play-ins, when we saw a lot of the things we noticed was a lot of teams kind of overforced for Baron, and it ended up costing them a lot. Now, all in all, GT haven't really lost a lot, but that play could have gone really bad if the kill had gone onto the Viego. Obviously, the shutdown on Hoys does go to the Jarvan, but that could have gone onto a Xayah or a Xerath, making those even more scarier to face.
Yeah, and again, I mean, this Mount Dragon will provide massive value to the side of GT against champions like that Xerath. He's going to have to start looking maybe towards getting a Void Staff sooner than he'd prefer to, with, again, that resistance amp that you get from that Mountain Dragon. But I just want to, they go for, we're saying GT, they're playing the map. They're not taking their foot off the pedal. They're trying to push advantage. They're looking for fights. But that was just an extension too far. And they do need to understand that there's a scale here between pushing your lead sensibly, actually, being able to stop any kind of macro decisions for the enemy team, and then just giving an enemy team like a you must fight a scenario where they are actually favored. Ruddy, they're able to pick up a couple things. Going on to the rest of this game now, maybe GT Hopefully they don't get too scared about making any more plays. I don't imagine they will, but they need to be a little bit careful about the fact that they do still have difficulty maybe playing into some of the champions coming out from Ruddy. They still have to look for this Zerath, who is still going to be free firing. They're trying to go here, and they have picked up 2. They've got the Xayah, got hit by the charm. Briefcase Man falls as well. Nainat's got to run away with the tail between his legs. Hard enough to say with a cold. And Baron should be going over to the side of GT because Ornn has TP. He's coming mid lane. It's going to be a 5 versus 3. And that's going to be the best case for Ruddy. There's no chance here GT get that Baron. And they're going to be able to accelerate their lead even further.
Yeah, and this is the correct play. Oh, and we saw Cronin go for something a bit cheeky. Nice idea, but obviously that is the ideal situation for GT. They catch Ruddy trying to get some vision. There's such a lack of damage on this Ruddy team now. I think Cronin seems to be the only one that's able to output relatively enough to scare GT at this stage of the game, as we're seeing the ornaments start coming in as well. But really nice decision making from GT, not going to let that past kind of decision kind of knock their confidence. Really quick decision making to be able to go for that play, and obviously it nets them what they were eventually looking to get, which is the Baron. And Ruddy try and answer with the mid push, but when the Ornn comes down, it's kind of an overplay. But it looks like they're committing on Cronin in the mid lane, and this might just be a dead Xerath if Hoyes can hit his skill shots, and he just uses the ult instead and just destroys him.
Bit harder to dodge that one out. We do see the TP coming through from Ahri. Ruddy going for a play here. It could be very, very difficult. There is a lot of mobility from the flank. He has got the flank. He is in the back line. He's on top of 4 members. He is going to fall. And now we're talking about the resets. Maybe they come in now. No, okay. So in the end, Xayah manages to get the feathers off. She manages to stun them down. Migma trying to look for a charm. But this should just be the turret for GT. And maybe even the inhibitor if they want to push for it. They've got to be careful here, Ruddy, that they don't give too much more. Just trying to defend an inhibitor turret. Briefcase Man goes in. So does Natty Nat, trying to just at least ward them off of this turret. But there's nothing they can really do here. They're just going to keep the siege up. They've got a cannon. Ruddy have to be really careful again that look how low they're getting here. This cannon is just going to keep free firing. GT just stand in front of it. They're not going to be able to break this cannon at all. Natty Nat goes very low. They just need to be like Ruddy here. I think that Cronin has been caught a couple times in this game. He needs to be a little bit more careful. He is meant to be one of their main sources of damage and an untouchable source of damage at that as GT does break the inhibitor turret. Briefcase Man on a flank here, looking for a play. He's trying to get onto 2. He does actually manage to get onto Yepe, manages to get onto Nippler. Yepe falls. This should be the end of the siege, at least for now. Ruddy trying to get a little bit more. GT should just get out of here. They need to keep this Baron buff for a little bit longer. They've got about a quarter left on it, so they might be able to get one more push in another lane if they want to. Get that reset off, get back out on the map. I mean, someone who's gone under the radar this game is Migma. He's actually played incredibly well on this Ahri so far. And his charms have been really decisive in these fights. I have to see if this guy can actually get more done on this pick, which it came through. I was a little bit skeptical on the Ahri versus Xerath matchup, as this game gets later, but he's performed incredibly well. And I mean, overall, I think the whole of GT, I think they've almost outperformed my expectations, and I had pretty high expectations of them already.
Yeah, and it's one of the...
Okay, he's alive. He's alive.
Yeah, and this is just the mobility for GT. They have champions that are so mobile, like Ahri, Ezreal, they're so hard to lock down, and you have a Jarvan, you have a Rakan, and even Renekton to a certain degree, you want to try and lock down these champions, and we saw it in the last team fight when Shihan had a really nice flank. He had about 3 or 4 of them's whole attention on him, and yet Ruddy were not able to put down any of their actual damage. The front line of Nippler and Yepe were just able to soak it completely up, and they were able to force down mid. Obviously took the tier 3. A little bit of an overextension when Cronin obviously spawned back up. He was able to use his range to be able to clear the wave a lot quicker than obviously like the Jarvan, the Renekton and the Xayah could do. So when he came up, that was probably the time where GT needed to kind of go, right, we've got the tower, we've got a couple kills, let's just get back onto the map. We do have the dragon spawned up now as well, so we'll see that probably go over to the side of GT. But yeah, it is becoming very bleak for this Ruddy roster. There's not too many avenues back in for them.
And it almost turns out to be that them getting that Chemtech Dragon might end up being worse for them, because if you get 3 mountains onto the side of GT, this poke And you get Mountain Soul as well. This poke coming out from the side of Ruddy is just, it's going to be way less effective. And he's not even working towards that Void, right? He's got the Ludens on the side with the Zerath. He's got the Horizon Focus. He's not going to have the penetration to be able to get through that base MR increase that you're going to be seeing from the side of GT and with those Mountain Dragons. So right now, somehow Ruddy have to slow this game down to get those items on their crucial carries, but GT aren't going to let up on the gas, so Ruddy are going to have to find a pretty miracle fight soon. Yes, it doesn't look that big. It is only 6k in the hole, but I say only because it could have been a lot worse with some of the way this game has been played out. Yepe's caught again. He is going very, very low. They're going to blow everything onto the Braum, and he doesn't die yet. Mixie is so strong.
Wow.
Goodbye, Briefcase Man. Goodbye, Shihan. Cronon's been caught as well. I mean, this is just one death after another. It's a disaster.
Yeah.
Mixie's popping off. We say about the chance of these resets. It's coming through. Adebayor has to survive. Ends up feather storming. Doesn't matter. Nippler sends them to an early grave. It's going to be 28 minutes, and I imagine this is just going to be the game end now. I mean, it looked like they got a pick onto Yepe. He is very, very, very tanky on this brawl. Manages to survive for a very long time. They don't pick anyone else up other than Mixie, who end up diving a bit deep, but it doesn't really matter. And Natty Nat now, their new jungler, the Swedish prodigy, he's got to look for something here. He's got the Zonyas. He's got the stopwatch. He's trying to make any play happen. GT can look to just end this game. If they end up falling here to the turret, maybe GT, there is only 8 to 10 seconds left on the rest of the players coming out of Ruddy. Natty Nat's doing his absolute best to keep this dream alive. Shihan's back. They're actually going to have to leave GT. They don't even get the end. It looks so disastrous for the side of Ruddy. And here comes Cronin. Here comes Adebayor. Get out of here, GT. You've got to go. This might end up being a couple kills going over to the side of Ruddy. If Hoyes does get picked up as well, nope, never mind. Does sidestep on that final Cronan shot. Adebayor does pick up the shutdown. That is a huge amount of gold into the back pocket of Desire. But now they've got an open Nexus, right? So any fight that Ruddy takes has to pretty much be the perfect fight. Because if they do get picked once or twice, a couple of them fall, GT will just end the game.
Yeah, and obviously, looking at the map as well, what can they gain from that? Ruddy, they're definitely looking at the Baron, but obviously Natty Nat is only up in 3 seconds. They are down an Ornn, they are down an Ezreal, so maybe, just maybe, this is Ruddy's miracle way back in after an overextension from the GT roster.
But Natty Nat isn't here. He's running back from base. So Mixie and Migma now have to make the play happen. The Baron does sort of reset, goes back up to 5k. Shihan is looking for a fight here to kick anything up. Migma does fall, but Mixie has to go huge in this fight. Picks up the Rakan corpse. Is going to be able to maybe get away here. They are going to go turn back onto this Baron. It's gone back up to 9k. But Mixie is still available here to try and smite steal. Ezreal's back from base. Here comes the Ezreal. Adebayor is so low. Is he going to pick up this Baron here, Mixie? He steals it! He actually picks up. It's a disaster. Mixie has the reset, but he is going to end up falling. But the Baron goes over to the side of GT. Yepe and Nippler and Hoyes are all here. Natty Nat tries to pick anything up again. He's going to fall. Oh, it's a disaster.
Oh, no.
It's a disaster for Ruddy. It looks so good. Actually picking Migma up early in that fight, but Mixie's still alive. He just walks in. He doesn't have the ultimate on that Viego. He just walks through the entire team, steals it, kills the Xayah. And what looked like maybe Ruddy had a chance. Yes, they've got open Nexus, but then picking up that Baron would mean they could push out their lanes. They could then look to maybe force fights around this next dragon. And now they've got nothing. They've got nothing left. This Ezreal, he's got Baron. This Ornn has got Baron. These are two very hard to kill targets for the side of Ruddy, and so they're going to be able to push in their lanes now. They're going to be able to get priority onto this dragon, and Ruddy have to make another miracle happen.
Yeah, it's hard as a Ruddy fan to really be able to hold on to much in this game. It seems like once they make a good play, GT are just sucker punching them back. Obviously, we saw the overextension. The Baron call was probably the right call if you had your Jarvan up. I think the moment that you kind of don't, you kind of just need to be stabilizing the game. You just lost both your towers by your Nexus. You just needed to stabilize the game. We are seeing again a little short burst onto Yepe. He does take a fair bit of damage. GT have to do have to be careful here not to fall into the same trap that they had at the Nexus, where they do overextend and allow the poke from Cronin and maybe a misposition on one of their carries to not allow them to take this Mountain Drake, because I do think after this Mountain Drake it just will be the end. I think they just got too many stats that Ruddy don't really have the damage to be able to deal with them, especially when Hoy's Mixie are just doing so much work.
Okay, Migma, never mind, gives away his position, had great positioning there for the fight, does end up getting locked up here, maybe, no, does get away with that Spirit Rush. That is the soul over to the side of GT, and this will just be the fight, and you imagine the end. Nippler ends up knocking up to Shihan, has got to go big here, really, trying to pick up Hoyce. He is so strong, this Renekton. Hoyce does eventually get out, Shihan's trying his best, it's very hard to pick up on that slippery Ezreal, he falls. Mixie's got the reset. Nanny Nat tries his best to pick up Migma, who does end up falling, so it is a 1-for-1 at the moment. Briefcase Man gets locked up, gets shut down. Mixie gets another reset, looking for another player. Anyone will do. Natty Nat ends up, never mind, gets on the edge of that Heartbreaker. Pentakill maybe for Mixie here. He has a lot of damage. He's going to get Adebayor. Adebayor falls as well. Pentakill for the Viego. They're going to give it to him. Nanny Nat's going to run away.
He's running.
And that's, I mean... That's just that's not okay, is it? That's not okay. That's not sportsmanship, is it? Like in this most prestigious of cups, Aurora Cup.
Exactly.
As GT picks up the first game, Gran Turismo driving to a first victory. I don't know. That was just such a great game. I mean, that was so well played. We had a bit of concern, right, for the fact they needed to rely on these resets from the Ari and the Viego, and it ends up being that the Ezreal also comes up huge for them. And they didn't really need to worry too much about the resets because they just got so much gold. They smacked them with their wallets, and that was the end of the game.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway for me is that GT was so controlled throughout most of that. They just seemed at no point, even when they maybe mispositioned or overextended, they made a counterplay that kind of just nullified any sort of advantage that Ruddy were trying to get in that play that they were making. Ruddy obviously just kind of struggled to actually even get a footing into this game. I think the only time that they were really in a decisive mindset was when they made that play by their Nexus. But at that point, the game is just completely out of your hands. So we'll have to see. Obviously, as we've mentioned before, Fearless Draft. So we will be seeing brand new picks, brand new comp styles from these teams. So we'll have to see what Ruddy want to go for, whether they're going to go for something completely different. Maybe they have some better ideas to kind of pivot to, but we'll have to see in the next game.
Yeah, and also, I mean, don't forget the way it works is that bans, if a champion is banned, it doesn't mean it's not available either. So we might see very similar bans coming through, but again, we'll have to see different compositions. But GT on a comp that's very high execution, a much, I wouldn't say more difficult comp to play. You had an Ornn in it, for example, but a bit higher execution, with these resets, they end up pulling out the victory. I do have a few fears for Ruddy now because they had a comp that seemed pretty solid. Jarvan may have had a harder time this game, but you had the Xayah Rakan, which is seen quite high prio in the middle of Aurora Cup so far. They end up having the Renekton, which many people see as the premier top laner. He is the bar on which top laner is measured right now. They end up coming up with this Xerath, which has seen a little bit more, priority. It was a champion that we were saying, how hard is it for Gran Turismo to reach this champ? And they end up falling in a fashion where they were just getting picked over and over again and letting Gran Turismo build these leads. There was a little bit of a fight back, and that ended up going disastrously as well. So we'll have to see. We are going to go to a quick break because these teams now, maybe their coaches will come in. I mean, Ruddy, we've seen what happens after they drop the game. So hopefully, maybe they aren't too boom coming to the second game. I want to see some great League of Legends today. But we are going to go to a quick break, and we'll catch you guys in a second. And we're back with this game 2 of the Aurora Cup Open, Ruddy versus Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo picking up the first game.
Mhm.
And going into this next game, Kaya, what do you think about the drafts coming through? It is Fearless Draft, as we will keep repeating, because I'm so excited that we get to see Fearless Draft in the tournament. And so we're not going to be able to see the same comps coming through from, it's not from either side, because how it works in this Fearless Draft is that even if the enemy picks a champion, you are still allowed to pick it. It's only the champions you picked yourself. And it doesn't matter if stuff was banned. They can also still be played. Bans don't count. So we're not going to see, stuff like the Jarvan coming out from Ruddy, but we might see it coming out from the side of Gran Turismo. What kind of changes do you think Ruddy are going to make? Because, to be honest with you, Gran Turismo kind of smacked them around a little bit in that game.
It's hard to pivot exactly where the kind of draft initially had gone wrong for Ruddy. I think all in all the ideas were really good. I just think Gran Turismo answered them really cleverly. Like seeing a Jarvan that early on, GT were able to answer it with like we said, the Ezreal with the Ari as well. They got a really nice weak side top laner that at the current moment in this meta really doesn't lose lane. It is quite hard to be able to find a champion or someone that can really, really, really punish an Ornn, because the Ornn will still be really relevant as the game goes on. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of go into the next game. We have been told by production that Ruddy, as the losers of game one, have side selection, and they have selected to go onto the red side. So obviously that opens the door a lot more to being able to counter the picks of Gran Turismo. So maybe that's where they've decided they want to kind of direct the kind of draft. We are as well, like you said, we haven't seen too many games on this patch, so we are still trying to figure out whether red side's stronger or blue side's stronger. But obviously, Ruddy kind of favour wanting to be able to kind of counter the kind of picks from Gran Turismo.
You'd imagine here they're looking at R3 and R5 and going, maybe we get Shihan on a carry pick in the top lane. Maybe we're going to look towards maybe getting something a counter pick on R3 maybe for our mid laner, because I mean if you look at that last game, he went for the Xerath. It didn't work out. He didn't look comfortable on that champion at all, I'd say. I know that maybe he is a Xerath player, maybe secretly he's got a secret Xerath account, OTP account, but he did not look comfortable on that champion. He didn't really understand. He didn't feel like his positioning was great either. He got caught out multiple times. When on Xerath, your one job is survive, go through rotations of cooldowns, and make the enemy life hell. And it didn't happen. So maybe they look towards what else can this guy play? Is there going to be some secret picks coming through again? With it being fearless, it's only going to be a couple of games today, right? It's only a best of 3. There isn't a best of 5, so we aren't going to get too deep into some players' champ pools in these best of 3s. When it goes later in the tournament, best of 5s, I believe, do come through. And when that happens, yes, we might see some more interesting picks. What does interest me when I think back to that first draft is that Ruddy bans Tristana on blue.
Yeah.
And so they must think this champion is really broken, but they don't want to first pick it. So if that is the case, we'll have to see if they do favour that to be banned on red again. Maybe they feel it kills 2 birds with 1 stone now. They don't have to ban it on the blue, even though they feel bad about not first picking. Maybe something like this. And we also saw the Senna ban coming through from GT, which you imagine, again, with Briefcase Man in the bot lane, is going to be another ban that's sort of locked in here for the side of Gran Turismo. So I imagine the bans might not change all that much, as we see they're the same, just mirrored now.
Yeah, it kind of I think just to build on, as you were saying, I think it might even be a case that maybe Ruddy just don't play these champs, and because they're so strong, they just rather ban them. So they might just be crippled by their own champion players' champs pools to have to ban them.
I mean, that is sort of how this Tristana pick works, right? So it's one of these champions that doesn't really struggle in mid. It's a flex.
There we go.
But when you have it in mid, it doesn't really struggle against many matchups. Then the matchups where people do view it as being maybe less Triss favored are matchups many people don't play. One I'd heard rumblings of, speaking to a lot of people about Triss, funny enough, at the moment, is Akshan, but no one plays that champ. No one is going to play Akshan. So no one knows what this champ does. Like, no one's going to play it. So this champ kind of has to be taken from the board, especially if they think GT will first pick it. Ash being taken off the board is really interesting, though, because last game, that ban didn't come through.
Yeah, trying to think back to what the third ban was from GT. It definitely wasn't Ash. So that's obviously a pivot in terms of, on this side we're going to do this, on this side we're going to do that.
It was Kai'Sa.
Was it Kai'Sa?
Kai'Sa, which is interesting. I mean, this is a champ that we've seen adapt her build quite a lot, right? She's gone from being this AP poke mage early. She were going with the static into maybe a Nash, as now she goes. A lot of people are going Umbral into Duskblade. I don't personally like that build. I think you fall off a cliff in mid game, but again, a lot of people are playing it. So maybe we see GT value this champion very highly as a first pick, and we do.
There we go.
That's really exciting because, yes, you'd assume it's bot lane. Maybe they bring it out mid, or top, maybe, but it's very likely just going into that bot lane with Hoys. And we'll have to see what they do end up building around this game, because don't forget, Maokai is available. People love those, the Jace, Kai'Sa, Maokai kind of compositions, poke you from range, lots of control, lots of objective control with the Maokai saplings. And all those champions would be available for GT.
Whoa, that is a very early Sivir. And it's one of those where I think Ruddy almost falls something that we don't normally see, just because they had used the Xayah in game 1. So once you take away the Kai'Sa and you banned the Senna, the Ashe, the Tristana, how far down the champ pool are you really going to go in terms of Ruddy? We're seeing an Alistair locked in. Obviously, we are so used to seeing the kind of Rel Alistair kind of opposition in terms of
Mm.
those two. Ruddy prioritizing that quite highly, being able to pick that up. So, yeah, I think Ruddy were just forced to really dig deep into Adebayor's champ pool there.
I mean, it's interesting because with the Sivir, I think they feel they have to take the Alistair with it being such a good pick into Sivir with Kai'Sa. With the
Mm.
fact that you can easily headbutt pulverize a Sivir, she cannot spell shield that combo. If she spell shields the headbutt, she can't spell. The Alistair's still on top of you. He still pulverizes you, and the other way around as well. You can't do it once your headbutt, you're CC'd. You can't no longer spell shield. So maybe they felt they were like locked into taking this Alistair with the Sivir lock in, and now you see stuff like the Jarvan come through, which
Yep.
obviously we saw in game one for Natty Nat on the side of Ruddy. We see this Rakan come through, another champion we saw last game on the side of Ruddy, so maybe teams are trying to swap drafts around. It is interesting that we don't see sort of priority on champs like Maokai and things like this. We are seeing this Jarvan take such high priority. Obviously can't be taken by Ruddy, but still. And I wonder what they're going to answer with here, Ruddy, because they could, people would say, well, what about Poppy, for example? This
Ooh.
champion is very good, but they are looking currently hovering the Kazakhs, and maybe they feel like Natty Nat, he is that one of their highest elo players. He is a player that last game, I think, in that defense of the base, he played super well. And I think overall, him being on the Jarvan was almost not a mistake, but he looked like his pathing was decent and had the right idea of what to do. He just didn't have the ability to perform it on around that bot lane.
Mm.
Now with that Kha'Zix, if he starts getting fed, he can start looking on these flanks, maybe looking to pick up the Kai'Sa in a 1v1, things like this, and give their carry jungler a carry champion.
Yeah, he was very much punished by GT's answering. So this is him trying to get his own back. They've obviously Ruddy have turned around and gone, right, these are the champions they've picked. What do you feel comfortable playing into them? He's obviously piloted straight towards his Kha'Zix there. We're seeing mid laners banned. On the side of GT, when we saw the Rakan and the Jarvan, they banned the Orianna. So we'll have to see if that comes out from Ruddy or whether it'll be left open. Akali being taken away. Aatrox is a normal ban from GT. They did it against Shihan in the last game, so not wanting to see that in the hands of someone who is obviously very, very good at that champion. And Irelia, the other ban from Ruddy as well.
And if I remember, again, I think I cast a Smigma. I cast Smigma in NLC Div 3 finals. He was playing on Verdant Blue, and then again, now they are Gran Turismo. I remember him having stuff like maybe Aurelia. I might be misremembering there. But it is interesting to see, obviously, now there's certain champions that they can't pick, so you're not going to be banning those out. We do end up seeing the Syndra, so Syndra Kha'Zix will be the mid-jungle duo you'd imagine here for Ruddy. Can be very strong, maybe getting some leads here. There can be a Xerath, though, for the side of GT here. It may sound crazy, but this kind of longer range sort of play here, you might be able to pick up. You can't go Ornn, sadly, but you could go like a Xerath plus a tank frontline, and you have these two sources of crazy long range damage in the Kai'Sa. It isn't going to be that. It's going to be what is traditionally, has been played a number of times into the Orianna when you feel like you can outskill the enemy mid laner. The Orianna into Syndra matchup rather, and then you've got this Jarvan Orianna. I think you can just round this out with a safe weak side top laner here, and you are feeling really good if you are the side of GT.
Yep, and there's the Gnar. Obviously, couldn't pick the Ornn again. They picked that up in the first game, so we'll have to see what we've got in the back pocket of Shihan to play into the opposition's comp. Obviously, the last ban from GT was targeted at him and at his Darius as well, so we'll have to see what he decides to pull out here. We're seeing a Jax lock in for Shihan. I think this game is massively on the mid and top of Ruddy. I'd love to see a lot of play from Natty Nat being played around this Syndra and the Jax. I did like the Syndra pivot into what GT had picked at that point, which was obviously the Jarvan, the Kai'Sa, and the Rakan. A lot of really nice use of the Syndra and her kind of knockback on her like E and stuff to be able to deny some of the engage from those three champions. So really like that. Obviously, GT kind of just went, right, well, we're going to go full kind of like engage wombo combo. As we hinted at, Ruddy might have wanted to do in the first game. It got banned away in that game by GT, and they're going to pick up the combination here. Which draft out of those are you favouring, Rob? Are you still favouring the Ruddy side, or do you think it's going to be a 2-0 for the side of GT?
I mean, it's hard to say having not seen, if I hadn't seen that first game, I think this would be a lot closer. I think GT just looked so much cleaner in that last game, right? They looked like they weren't just getting leads, they knew how to sort of work around the map as a team, get vision down and look for picks and actually try and make something happen. They weren't taking their foot off the gas. So, with just draft wise, I mean, I'm a big fan of when you're in these situations going for the kind of thing you see from GT. I think that they have a really, really strong draft. They've got the Rakan priority support. They've got Kaiser, often seen as a priority ADC. And then they've got this Oriana, which I've heard rumblings of just being broken with all the changes and the buffs that she's been receiving over the time, with a ball delivery system in the form of, well, not only Rakan, but also Jarvan. So, I mean, I would favor GT, but I can definitely see here, if you are Ruddy, Shihan didn't have a bad game last game. I think he couldn't really do anything in his lane matchup. And then when it came into being into those late game team fights, he did what he needed to do. He was often, on top of 4 members, soaking up the pressure, surviving for a very long time with that Colder Meek, with his Gore Drinker. So giving Shihan a little bit more agency in this game makes a lot of sense. I mean, you could argue, I was looking at this draft and they picked it so quickly with this Jax. For me, I was like, oh, what about a Malphite? But if you are going to play around Shihan, you wouldn't give him that champion anyway. No. So right here, I think if you are Natty Nat, you've picked this Sivir Alistair. Sivir can be left on an island in most cases just to, farm, push out waves, then rotate to mid, push out waves again. Natty Nat this game should be focusing topside, get Shihan that lead, because let's look at the side of GT. Who is answering this Jax on a side lane? No one. This Gnar is not going to be able to do this. The Oriana definitely can't do this. And once those two options are off the table, you don't really want to go, any further than that. You don't want to put a Kaiser into it. So I think here, if you're Natty Nat, you have a win condition, which is this Jax. You can play around this mid lane to get yourself fed as well. Syndra stun into the isolation damage from Kha'Zix can just be a straight up kill. What I want to see here from Ruddy, despite them having, I think, a draft where I wouldn't favour them, is Briefcase Man on the roam all the time, looking to make things happen across the map. Keep that Sivir safe by her just shoving out, be on the wave at the right time as the Alistair. But other than that, play topside, play topside, play topside. Because Shihan is a returning member, the only returning member of Ruddy. He's got a whole split's worth of experience or more. Give him that opportunity to shine. As they go in level 1, this is an Alistair level 1, and he is just going to be taken down solo, has to flash. And this is not what you want to see from Ruddy. This is the issue with the Alistair. Your level 1 is significantly worse than most supports in the game.
Yeah, and it just gave instant flashbacks to that level 1 in the last game, which really set the precedent for the rest of the game for this bot lane of Ruddy. They never really were able to get anywhere near the bot lane of GT, and this could be one of those where it's a massive weakness, this Ruddy roster going forward. Obviously, we hinted at the kind of wider picture of the Aurora Cup. Obviously, you lose here, you're not out, but you will have to face either Veneer or Fourth Wall in the next stage. But this is exactly what we wanted to see from now an experienced Shihan. He's commanding his lane. Let's just hope that Natty Nat can have the proactive ability to be able to influence it a little bit further to extend any lead that he can accrue by himself.
I mean, this is a matchup that the Jax can just run away with, right? This isn't the situation like last game with that Renekton into the Ornn, where the Ornn just kind of stonewalls the lane. He says, "Thou shalt not pass." You're never moving in from that lane anyway. So the fact that you now have an ability for Shihan to carry should be a huge boon for Ruddy. The only concern you've got to have is that with this Kaiser, obviously what you'd assume to be going towards that Duskblade build, but still can work towards that Nash's Tooth later in the game, you are going to have to be looking for some interesting engagers as this game goes late for the side of Ruddy, right? Because you've got that Alistair, but he is not someone who has the longest engage range in the world. You don't have something like an Ornn, for example. And so this Kaiser could be playing off your screen, poking you down. If she does go, again, it's probably Umbral into Duskblade into Nash's. And I would just be a little bit like a little bit concerned about Ruddy if your bot lane does fall out of the game like it did last time, because you've already seen this level 1, and look what GT are doing. GT are just they've got Prio in their lanes. I mean, Migma doesn't really, but Migma is sort of sat there, just shoved out his lane and walked into jungle. He's forcing Natty Nat out of his own jungle. There are 4 members in his jungle at 4 minutes.
Yeah. Very, very nice play there from obviously GT. We saw the observer was able to highlight Yepe putting that very early ward in the bot side, and you can see how many now wards GT having that bot side as well. Really nice. Identified that Mikma has the ability just to get the push in on the Syndra, brings his support and the jungler over, and Netinat is able to pick it up gladly, and he's not going to lose out on a Gromp or anything like that. So all in all, doesn't lose out too much, but it's just nice to see GT playing around there, like a vision control and the kind of communication there from the mid lane and his jungler as well.
And talk about vision control. Look at the bot side jungle for the side of Ruddy right now. 2 wards have gone down there, so there's no chance of. I mean, there's nothing. They're going to expire before anything happens, but at least it shows that they are. Whenever they're pushing their leads, they're doing it properly, right? They're not just sitting there running in, looking for something, they're running out. They're getting that vision. They're playing correctly, as when he would say, you know, they're playing. This is a team that, you know, Hoyes and Mixie and Mikma have comp experience. We're a little bit unsure on the comp experience coming out from the side of Ruddy, at least on everyone other than Shihan. And if that is the case, maybe that comp experience really shines through in this series, as Briefcase Man does look for the pulverize. This is GT just bullying Ruddy out of this bot lane.
Yeah, and as you were just talking about the experience of this bot lane from GT a lot higher than that we know of, Briefcase Man and Adebayor, any that we could find really, and that's really where GT have shined. They shined in the last game with Hoyes getting really nice kills and a lot of pressure early on, and a lot of really overforced plays from this Ruddy bot side. We're seeing it here as well, even from that very early level 1 trade. The kind of bar had been set there. Now it's just a case that Ruddy just need to be able to kind of get some lead somewhere else. We are seeing an early gold lead being able to accrue from Ruddy, and that is primarily where we said the focus should be, from the mid and the top of Ruddy. We haven't seen any early kills, but if the game keeps progressing at this level, it's going to be very Ruddy favored.
I mean, look at the CS difference in top lane right now, 46 to 18. You've got almost a 30 CS difference here already at 6 minutes, and Jax has the wave pushing into him. Like this has been so well played by Shihan. He can kind of try and fix this freeze for a while here if he wants to, because everyone is bot side. Everyone is bot side for the side of GT. So we'll have to see if they can make a play happen here. And overall, Nat, can he get that first kill onto Yepe? No, he does not. He tries.
Oh, no.
He tries so hard to flash. It's a disaster. Hoyes lives on 1 HP from the Unleash power. But GT here can clean this up. They can look for a kill onto Briefcase Man. They might be able to then turn onto Cronin. He has to be a little bit careful here. Adebayor has to flash.
No, don't step up.
And in the end, they don't look for anything else. But that is going to be the Dragon and 2 kills over to the side of GT, which at least makes up for, if you are that Gnar, you feel a little bit better about this wave situation in the top lane.
Yeah, it's still so hard, and you can tell Nippler's pretty much at this point kind of saying he's really needs some help. He's not got much hope. Obviously, the team fight there from Ruddy, you just got Natty Nat going a bit too far, trying to get the kill. The first blood there gets killed, and then the kind of subsequent kills after that is just maybe a bit of poor positioning.
Oh no!
Briefcase Man and Adebayor were really. Oh no!
What minion?
He got it.
The minion, the goat.
The minions pick up the kill.
I was not expecting that. I was not expecting to actually fall there. That was so close. But the 1-for-1, it may sound stupid, but this Syndra, she's fine with that, to be honest. Yeah. She's going to be able to get, she gets that kill. The wave is crashing right now for this Orianna, so she's going to lose a little bit of XP, a little bit of gold from those minions.
Rexa?
This is just... Ruddy is trying to make this game as chaotic as possible, and I'm all here for it. I think that this is what they need to be doing, to be honest. They're playing with this Kha'Zix, right? They're playing with a much more, I don't want to say brawly style comp, but this Kha'Zix wants to look for low individuals on side, or like on the sides of fights, and actually just blow them up. And so for them to actually try and make this game a little bit more chaotic is actually the way to go here. But I mean, talking about chaos, I mean, Yepe's top lane, yes, the wave is now frozen against Shihan, but he's not too worried because he hasn't even backed yet. He's 73 CS with no base, so he can just leave. He really doesn't mind.
Yeah, he'll just TP as well to catch this wave. He really does not miss out on anything, really. For the side of him, so he's absolutely fine about this. Hoyes look pretty comfortable there collecting this wave as well. Doesn't look like we'll see any sort of like cross map of pressure. Saying that though, we do have a roaming Syndra, so we could see a potential play going down, but it just looks like a plate will be taken for the side of Ruddy.
And I mean, what I'm surprised by here is the fact that
Oh, top
despite how
side.
topside, is there a play happening
Yeah.
here? There is over the Herald. This is no longer are we doing the 8-minute, 9-minute Herald swaps where everyone's topside. We're just going to brawl it out here from the side of Ruddy. They have to be a bit careful. Look how low Mixie went. Sheehan is going to be able to get this wave shoved in again because Nippler cannot fight this Jax at the moment. He has already got those steel caps and he's got that sheen, so he's a lot of damage just to the steel caps of the Gnar. And this CS difference is really concerning if you are the side of GT. On the other side, though, I just want to mention that look at this bot lane. Despite having a much poorer early showing, one might say, from the side of Ruddy, they are now actually in the lead as Cronin just sits there, puts down the Unleash power, then managed to scatter the weak, and it's just done. That's it.
Oh,
Migma's dead.
nice.
Nanny Nat has been just blows him up. That is what we wanted to see, right? We wanted to see the ability here of Ruddy to play around this mid lane as there's a solo bolo in the top lane by Shihan. We knew it was coming at some point, right, with how strong he was on this Jax.
Yeah.
We'd have to see. I mean, no idea how that ended up going down, how you had Nippler not knowing. He has already used his TP as well, Nippler. Look.
Yeah, he
gone.
still has flash up as well. So that this is really going to hurt for Nippler. We were saying how this lane looking pretty rough, but this is one of those where the top lane is just kind of going, well, GG, it's kind of over. GT really haven't got too much going across the rest of the map either. We said that the big focal point for Ruddy, mid and top, and we'd see Natty Nat see if he can kind of apply pressure onto those lanes. And we saw that in that really nice play from Cronin to be able to use the ult, get the lockdown, and Natty Nat came in and was able to pick up the kill. So yeah, GT in this situation are probably just wanting to get the items on the Kai'Sa and then probably team fight around these objectives, but we're seeing a TP bot as well from Cronin.
And Yepes just murdered.
Oh.
I mean that is a little bit of disrespect from GT not recognizing that. They had that pinged, by the way, I believe. They actually had that ward pinged as being there, and the fact they didn't believe that Cronin would go for that TP, a bit of disrespect, right? You are against a Syndra, she can just stun you from a million miles away. And this is the kind of Ruddy I was sort of expecting coming into the first game, right? Like, this is a Ruddy where Shihan, experienced top laner, is able to sort of dominate this lane. He's 30 plus CS up now. He's going to be even more once he picks this wave up. And then you're going to have a jungler who is maybe not as much complex speed, maybe, but does have a huge amount of experience in solo queue, hugely high elo. This guy is coming through. He is actually out jungling now. As we see, Cronin does get picked up by 3. This is at least a play back from GT. It's just a bit of a chaotic game, and honestly, that might favor Ruddy just because they're going to go for this dragon. I mean, it's just chaos across the map at the moment. But GT are going to at least look to answer this. Maybe they don't suspect this is happening, but they're going to run straight into it. Nina has to make something happen. In goes the Rakan. They're going to kill both of them. This is going to be the 2 kills are going over to the side of GT. No. Natty Nat gets out, but Reflex Man does fall. They have to be really careful. Adebayor has to blow the Sivir ultimate just to get away, and the flash. And the dragon is also going to go over to GT. So what looked like Ruddy stamping their authority on the map, it ends up being a disaster where they're taking this dragon, having lost their mid laner, and just not thinking that GT would walk down. Yeah. Is he going to go for a dive? Okay, I was going to say, this guy's he's got insane. It takes so long to kill him, surely. But no, in the end, Ruddy is just... Yes, they managed to get some leads in lanes, but they're starting to show that maybe their macro isn't anywhere near as strong as GT's, like we suspected in that first game.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what GT needs to be playing around, this Orianna Jarvan. It really is a massive point, and obviously Hoy's on this Kai'Sa is also very strong. So they do need to play around that a lot more. Did really, really well to identify that they got the kill mid, and then obviously they had the awareness that Ruddy can be doing Drake at that time, and were able to pick it up. So these are the sort of like plays that GT have needed to make, and it's taken to this stage right now to be able to make them. And you're still bleeding top as well. Shihan is just... He's going to be so scary when it gets into these team fights and stuff. And as I was saying, this is the play that GT need to keep making. They've now been able to punish Cronin twice in the mid lane. Just by having an Orianna and a Jarvan. It is so easy to execute, and they've been able to now punish him twice, which is really good from GT.
I mean, and again, like, yes, people say Syndra, she can try and knock back that J4, but once that shockwave comes through, she will be dead.
Yes.
And like, be able to punish her again and again, GT need to be able to keep doing this on cooldown, essentially. Is Ruddy are trying to, like, punish the invade by GT, but there's no one here, so them standing around looking for nothing will just mean that they're standing around to their deaths. Adebayor is the first to fall. Briefcase Man runs back to the solace of his turret, but it won't be very much. I mean, they might try to dive, as we see another solo kill in the top lane. Shihan is begging his team right now. Shihan is saying, please, guys, please, stop.
Yep.
I can carry this game. I'm so far ahead. I'm going to be 60 CS up at 14 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm going to be 60 CS up.
Jeez, look at the goal difference.
Please. He's top laners. Everyone's been in this kind of game before, where you look at the rest of the map, it's on fire, and you're like, that's not going to be my problem until another 20 minutes when I'm never leaving side lane. Because Shihan has to do something, and it's not going to be team fighting against the comp of GT.
This is so rough for Nippler. He has less gold than the Rakan. It's really rough. It's really rough. You can just tell he is one of those games for Nippler, maybe where he's just like muted and he's just like, I'm done. I'm out of the game. What's the point? Oh, that's a really nice stun there from Cronin. Is still doing loads of damage in this stage of the game as well. So that's a really nice stun from him. A lot of damage onto Yepe. But yeah, Ruddy getting caught there. Really nice aggression from GT. Ease of the execution. They get the kill mid. They move into the bot side. Ruddy think they have the opportunity to catch them in their own jungle, but GT pull the kind of reverse card on them and punish Adebayor for maybe stepping a bit too far when he has no vision there.
And but the only concern here,
nothing.
I know, right? Look at this.
Nothing.
If you're on the side of GT, you're terrified, right? As I said, who is matching Jax on the side?
Oh,
and boy, is he fed. He's so fed.
He's so scary. Like he is a raid boss at this point of the game. As you said at the very start, who are you sending to match Shihan at the moment? Are you just gonna try and be like, you know what? Let him on the side. We'll just try and cross map. But Nippler's come down and he's just looking at Shihan and going, "Oh, not again!
Get me out, please! Someone save me!" He's begging for his team to come and gank bot, but they say no. They're going to stay on top side here. There is 3 members. They're coming to bully the Gnar even more. Look at this! Briefcase Man and Natty Nat. They're going to look for this turret with the Herald. Nippler has to be so worried. He does almost have Mega Gnar available, but he's going to be so squishy. He's got basically nothing. This turret is going to fall. More gold into the back pocket of Shihan. This could legit be a Jax 1v9 at this point. He has to face hide as well. I mean, he's not going to be able to... Team fighting here will be a lot harder. He's looking for something. Never mind, Nippler's running away. Briefcase Man has picked up Yepe on the side, but it's a little bit supportal combat. Yep. Shihan doesn't care. Shihan literally couldn't care less. Okay, he cares now. I think Shihan cares. Shihan might care.
He might a little bit.
Shihan doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's out.
They're
fine. They're trying.
The raid boss lives.
The raid boss lives. They're going to go to the second phase. They didn't blow him up before the first phase. So that's it. Shihan's going to get the base off here. The dragon should be going to the side of Ruddy with Hoys and with Mixie on the top side. This is very helpful because if you are Ruddy, I think you have to play solely around this Jax at this point, and then slow down the team fights. And if they can do this, oh my god, a huge shockwave though on the dragon pit. They pick up Briefcase Man as a sacrificial lamb. I mean, it's going to have to be a classic UK backdoor, I guess, here from Shihan. I don't know if you watched much of the UKL, but it's been a lot of backdoors so far in that tournament, and this is going to be the same here. Shihan,
Gnar's
representative. Dead. Gnar's dead.
Gnar is dead.
Gnar's dead.
I think it's important as well that we do notice that whilst the play bot lane was being made, Cronin did die as well to the Jarvan and the Kai'Sa. So again, you're making a play that side, you get punished the other side. There you can see the lifeless body of Nippler. He's ready to go next if there is going to be a next.
I mean, this is going to be a tale of 2 team comps, right? Because you've got this J4 Orianna, ridiculously strong combo right now. J4, obviously, with the buffs to Gordrink and Shojin a few patches ago, was seen as a premier jungler or since then. You know, these 2 items in combination are absolutely disgusting. But then on the other side, You know, with Oriana as well, with all those busts. But on the other side, this Jax is going to be so hard to stop. I genuinely, right now, I think this is going to come down to Shihan essentially shot calling his entire team about what he needs them to do.
Yeah.
Because he right now needs his team to somehow slow the game down, make sure that they don't just get one shot by the Jarvan Oriana combo, because no one is going to match him. He's going to be able to take the entire base. If they send Ori, Shihan is happy to take that 1v1 most likely. And so what it looks like is that it's got to be that Shihan has to be in a position to force them to bring people to defend their side lanes. And that's all shot called by your side laner. Shihan has to be like, go here. I need you guys to show on map now. I can't let 5 of them collapse on me. Because, yes, he's strong, but you still lose in the 1v5 against the Jax Oriana. And I wonder if Shihan can actually make that happen, because it's a style that is so hard to pull off in organized play.
Oh, and he's perfectly in that fog wall. But the problem is, as well, is if you're sending the Oriana, there's a massive part of your wombo combo with your Jarvan just gone. It might not be enough just to have the Kai'Sa and the Jarvan there. Like, the whole point of you going Jarvan and Oriana is to be able to sync up your ultimates. If you're having to send her bot lane, then Roddy can always just, you know, rotate over to the Baron. They can force the Baron or force a TP out of Mikma. They don't need Jax to be there. They have the ability to send more members there. Like, at this stage of the game, GT have to have Gnar and Oriana there. Otherwise, Gnar just gets destroyed.
On side lane, which is interesting. Why a jungler being there is a surprise in itself. They're trying to look for the shockwave onto Natinat. He is blown up, so they do at least turn the kill back. Both junglers are dead, and Ruddy have to run away. But on the other side here, you've got this Jax barreling down on this bot turret. He is going to look to get it. He can go for a dive here. He is 3 levels up. He's so tanky. He doesn't care. Look at him. He doesn't care about tanking the turret. He doesn't care. He's absolutely out of this world levels of strong with this Jax. Now, we are saying about the ease of execution from GT, but what has to be mentioned here is, even in team fights, right, if this Jax is pushing side, pulls someone bot lane, and then can TP to a fight, if he gets on top of your Kai'Sa, she's dead. She doesn't have the damage. She's gone this Umbral Dustblade build. Lots of burst, very little DPS. She's probably working her way towards that Nash's next. But it isn't like, if you are Ruddy, yes, we say about the split push, as he's now finished up his Shojin and gone towards the only champion that can do any damage to him right now. Oh, hold on a second. He sold it. He sold his Hex Drinker. I was about to praise his item purchase. Either way. It's going to be so hard to kill here for the side of GT. If he does start, I know he's going Zhonya's. Okay, makes a little bit more sense, I guess, if with the shockwave and the initial burst coming out. But if Shihan can survive that initial burst, with Counter-Strike, he's just going to be able to just run over a team fight even, maybe, with how strong he is. And this has to be the concern of GT. They almost have to play both sides of the map perfectly. They can't let Jax take a lead too hard, like push a lane too far up and then TP into a fight. But in the same way, they then need to play fast enough in the fight so a Jax TP doesn't matter. And that's going to be so hard if you're trying to hold Jax in side lane. So it's going to be a game where, despite having a draft that I would kind of have favoured with GT, the lead that this Jax has afforded to himself means it's going to be impossible. Impossible to maybe take fights that they have wanted to. The only hope is they get a one-shot onto 3 members with the Jarvan Oriana right now. And, oh! Nippler's just been solo killed. Nippler's been murdered again, but this time by the Syndra. Now that is a huge concern, because we already knew that the Gnar couldn't match the Jax. He can't now match the Syndra. What the hell is going on in mid lane right now? We do not need to be fighting, but it doesn't matter. We're going anyway. This is just an absolutely chaotic game, and I think GT might need to slow it down and look for their combo soon, because right now they're just kind of losing. They're going right now. Here comes Mikma. The shockwave. It hits absolutely nothing. Hoist does pick up Natinat. Mikma flashes. Ruddy is still here, and Shihan is still ready to fight. But in the end, they maybe fight over this dragon, but they end up picking up a kill on the jungler, so Ruddy has to be careful. They don't really want to start it, but Shihan is so scary. Look how terrifying he is. He's holding off 4 members by himself. He's just going. He doesn't care. He's just going to kill Mikma. He's going to run him down. Okay, blast cone. Mikma lives for now. And disaster for GT.
Yeah, my parsec sadly has gone down, so I cannot see any of this lovely action currently.
I have a plan. Don't worry, I have a plan. There you go. There you go. That's my plan. I fixed it. I'm a That's on the fly right there. But yeah, no, the it's just an absolute chaotic bloodbath at the moment. They're kind of fighting over every objective. Right here, they have managed to pick up the Dragon Ruddy, but they are running to this Baron, which you imagine would go to the side of GT. It would have to be a Miracle Steal. Doesn't matter. Yepe is at least playing spoiler to any chances of getting in the pit. Just overall, GT have kind of been pulled down to Ruddy's level of chaos, and they aren't able to do the kind of clean macro decisions we saw in the first game.
Yeah, I mean, side kind of control right now is a massive problem. As we said, they're getting caught on the side, and it's really impossible to deal with. Shihan, when he is this goddamn strong at this stage in the game. Trade of Dragon over to Baron. As Ruddy, you're not really too happy about that. I guess you stopped the potential of being on Soul Point, but kind of giving GT the ability to have Baron and push the waves a little bit deeper kind of nullifies a little bit of what Shihan is being able to do as the Jax on these side lanes. But we'll have to see what GT are able to get out of it, as this will really define how the kind of state of the game looks going forward. What can they now achieve now that they have this Baron?
And yeah, I mean, here they've got to try something, right? They've got to break out of what feels like a stranglehold, Ruddy. Even though it looks like even in the gold, where all the gold is situated here is all where Ruddy wants it to be, right? They don't really care about Sivir having that much gold. Like, she's just there to clear waves and have a good time, and she gets picked off in the mid lane and engage underneath their inhibitor turret. As right now, Ruddy aren't doing their homework. They aren't sitting there doing the flowchart you need to do when you're playing on these kind of split push comps. They're not actually dealing with the mid push, which they're just being run down here in mid lane as Shihan and the Cronin have to run back to base. And it just feels like they just aren't respecting him. But Migma, talk about disrespect.
He's just out.
Is he out? He's so fast.
Cloud Soul and Oriana. He's just out of there.
So what? Crazy. I mean, they did lose the inhibitor turret. They didn't lose the inhibitor itself. But this feels like Ruddy, maybe the split push kind of shot calling isn't coming through here, where if you want to push sides, where you had Cronin, for some reason Cronin and... I don't think... Do you kill here as the side of Cronin? Migma is still very strong. He's still got Seraphs as well. Cronin has to run away, tail between his legs. He is dead. He stayed a bit too long on that side lane.
Yep.
Tried to go for a play that was never going to come off, and that's a bit of a disaster now for Ruddy, because with a member down who can push out sides, you now rely solely on Shihan and exhibiting pressure on the map. And against Baron, you're not really able to put too much pressure down with this Sivir. But back to what I was going to say is that they can't doing what they need to be doing if they're going to play split push. You need to clear out waves in mid lane, as Natty Nat is just going, oh my god, what a shockwave. What a shockwave.
Just absolutely snipes him out of air there. We'll go down to the Kazakhs. We are just seeing a lot of like overstays and these side lanes being played out really strangely by both teams. We will see the Alistair going down to Hoyes here. And as you were hinting a little bit, Ruddy are kind of getting punished for maybe just not quite respecting the map state and stuff in these later parts of the game. But that's where we might see this like experience difference from these players start being effect. We are seeing a collapse, so it looks like we're about to try and deal with the problem. We are about to conquer the raid box.
Oh my god, the amount of damage that comes through there is huge. Shihan might have to just fight and try and turn it. Is he going to get out? Does he have the war top? He has the flash, and he does live again. Okay.
Go for it. No, he
kill
has
him.
not got
never mind.
Not
Zonya's is still available, sadly, for Shihan as well. So
there's so much survivability in that sort of scenario, and it will net Ruddy a mid tier 1 as well, so they are starting to eke their advantage into all of the lanes now, as the dragon will be spawning up in under a minute, so we'll have to see how that one goes. That one seems to be the biggest next contest for both of these sides. Will we see a nice organized team fight from the side of GT, or will we just see Shihan running over them?
I mean, it's right now, I'd be surprised if we saw a nice clean team fight at all. We've just seen picks back and forth fighting all across the map. Cronin is still pushing top. He does have TP. And we know he can maybe look for this solo kill onto the Gnar. He has only a null magic mantle. To the 2 items of the Syndra going to be doing so much damage. Like, there's no real MR on the side of this Gnar. He could be looking to get picked, but there's 3 of them. They're going to kill him anyway. Leave Nippler alone. Leave this guy alone. He's been through enough today. He's been through enough in this game. They're bullying him.
Yes.
He's dead. Okay.
He's gone again.
And honestly, I like this play from Ruddy because they don't care about this dragon.
Yeah.
They don't care about Cloud Soul possibility. They don't care about Soul Point. But what they do care about is getting these structures down on the other side of the map. Because with Shihan, if he has an open inhib, one misplay by GT means he could run it straight to the Nexus. So they are playing this incredibly well here, Ruddy. In the end, they get the kill on one side. They pick up tier 2. Yes, they lose the dragon, but they don't really care. And they can start posturing around this Baron, potentially. Maybe. I don't know if their teamfight is as good as it could be, but...
Yeah, this Baron is going to be massive for the side of Ruddy, as we're seeing.
Oh, Yepe's core!
Just explode Yepe.
And it's just overall... this is not what GT should be looking like coming into this second game. They looked so clean in the first, right? So clean in the way that they played. Yes, a few little mistakes, but overall very clean. And in this game, they're kind of falling apart to a team comp which shouldn't really be out team fighting them. Have we seen Java and Oriana really wants this game onto multiple members? No. And that is the whole point in playing this J4 Oriana comp, which you won't have next game. You won't be allowed to have it because of Fearless Draft. So they need to make it work now.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one. I think G2 are just they don't know what to do in this scenario. They've got a really fed Jax. They're struggling to kind of set up the map for them. Ruddy, this Baron is massive for them in order to be able to crack the base even more open. Oh my god, he's just so massive into the damage, and this is a very good team fight for Ruddy here. Chong comes in.
Yeah, Chong comes in. Mixie is surviving for a very long time, does end up falling. Ingo's Nippler does get a decent 3-man Nara, I believe. Cronin does use the Zhonya's. Migma picks up the Alistair, but this is... Shihan's still alive. You can't stop this guy. He's going to kill everyone if he wants to. Like, this guy's so strong. Natty Nat getting the kills as well, picking up everyone. And this should be the end for Ruddy. After a game which was just chaos on chaos on chaos, we thought might end in a split push. Never mind, I lied, because all the minions are at their inhibitor turret. So there is no chance for an end because there are no waves. Yes. I was so sure that the wave had been pushed out. Don't worry, these minions will get the inhibitor, I promise. But they will get this Baron, which, as you were saying, is huge for Ruddy because they have this comp that can play on sides. They can play a 1-4 here with the Syndra just catching on sides, Shihan pushing all the way up. He's so strong that he's going to be able to TP into this fight, and if it's at all, even a semi-good TP, he's just going to run over the entire side of GT. He will have that Zhonya's up again for the fight as well. You've got the Sivir getting strong as well, as we're 3 items working towards that. Lord Dominic's, 3 items on the Syndra, obviously. You've got 3 items on the Kha'Zix. And overall, we were saying about how terrifying Oriana is, how strong Jarvan is with the Shojin Gordrinker build, but it's just not come to fruition this game, right? We've not seen one huge combo from this Oriana. We've not really seen a nice one at the Dragon, right, earlier on, but nothing else that really is like a game-turning ultimate. And when you pick these 2 champions for this wombo combo, and nothing comes about, you've got to question, are you actually playing to your strengths as a team when the ease of execution of your team comp is pretty easy, right? And you're not able to make it happen? This kind of flips game 1 on its head for me. Now I'm worried about going into, a potential game 3 with how strong Ruddy looks. Did GT kind of just have a really insanely good game 1 where they were able to put Nippler on a weak siding top laner in the Ornn? And once you put him on a top laner that doesn't just sort of stonewall a lane, does he fall out of the game and you end up really struggling? That would be the question I have for Nippler going forward in this tournament. If he doesn't get the Ornn, where does it go? And it's Fearless Draft. He only gets it once. He's just murdered.
Yep, Yepe just gets absolutely exploded for probably the 3rd or 2nd time in this game. No Jax to play in that one, but Cronin and the Sivir do way more than enough damage to be able to take out the support of GT. And this is just Ruddy being able to play on 2 waves. They've synced these up really nicely, I do have to say, to be able to crash them both in at the relatively same time. And GT here, they need to fight on one side. That's primarily what their comp wants to do. And just thinking throughout this whole game, GT haven't found that window where they've been able to team fight. and get, like you say, these really big wombo combo kind of ultimates. They've kind of just been picked apart mainly by the threat of having Shihan this fed. He's done a fantastic job. Natty Nat as well has picked up some really nice kills. A lot of them coming out of the way of just kind of cleaning up after a really decisive move from Ruddy. They've been really good and patient with their play. I think the only time that has been a bit questionable in decision making has been around giving GT that even initial Baron. I think that they probably could have done something a bit better in that sense, but they're going to pick up this Drake. They're going to push down some more lanes. This Baron buff will be timing out, so we will be extending a little bit longer. So GT still will have windows in, and by no means are they out. It's one of those where I think if they do catch maybe Shihan out of position, or they catch one of a massive ult in a team fight, they do still have damage to be able to kill these members. But it is becoming more and more harder to play the map if you are GT.
And your Gnar at this point in the time is now just a Mega Gnar bot, right? He
Yes.
really doesn't do anything in these fights. He's really struggled to actually get anything off at all in this game. He got a nice Gnar in the previous fight, wasn't enough. Natty Nat as well, by the way, is so tanky. He's got so much resistance. Look how he's just tanking everything right now. There are 4 members trying to kill him, and he's just out again. You can keep going, Mixie, but I think this guy is going to keep brawling you. You can have 4 members, but look at the top lane here. They're just pushing in. You have to respect this, GT. They are not going to let you just pick someone in mid for free as they take your top lane inhibitor. 3 inhibitors down. They've got a TP back to the base here, the Gnar. Doesn't get it cancelled. Doesn't take too much damage. He's just trying to save the lane as Nippler falls for the 7th time in this game. He's had an absolutely miserable game, right? The shockwave misses everyone, and it's a disaster. Mikma falls. This will be game for Ruddy. Shihan is just absolutely destroying them. Absolutely running them over as Cronin as well, doing so much damage. Adebayor survives. Yepe caught on the backside. This is game 2 going to Ruddy after what looked like a dominant performance in game 1 from GT. Better macro. Ruddy this game just say, no, we're going to diff you on lane. We're going to destroy you in this top lane. And going into game 3, I think GT are just happy Jax isn't available.
Yes, it's definitely going to be one of those you're kind of going, well, we don't have to face it again. And I know Nippler will be very, very pleased to hear that, that he doesn't have to face off against that Jax any longer. The game is finished. Don't worry, Nippler. Your pain and suffering has been fine, has been concluded. But yeah, really weird end to the game. It was kind of building up for maybe another couple minutes of just kind of pushing all the waves, maybe a couple more solo kills for Shihan if people were overextending. But it kind of just ended off of maybe a forced play mid, and then just them just barreling it down and not really being answered. It just kind of seemed like GT were going, right, it's your turn to try and stop them. Oh, you died. Next person, you go and try and stop them. And you just, at that stage in the game, it's not going to work against a Syndra and a Jax that fed.
And I mean, when it comes to this Jax pick, it just shows you again, I think the experience of Shihan having now played, obviously, in Ruddy and NLC Div 1, it was so clear that in that first game, we could see like Shihan knew what he was doing in the Renekton, obviously, right? He had his team fighting was as good as you can on that Renekton. It's very hard to force open the Ornn lane. You give him a matchup where he's able to look for solo kills, and he does it amazingly. Like getting that far ahead in a lane, like not just in kills but in CS, right? He was up 60 CS. It's like 14-15 minutes, right? And that's just, you can't be having this happen on your top side, especially when it's champions like Jax, who in the current meta, he is really up there as one of the premier top laners and a premier carry top laner. Going into this final game, GT now have to mental reset. Nippler has to mental reset. I hope this guy doesn't boom too hard, because that's a game where you feel you've been picked on the entire game. You go that far behind in lane. Now, I wonder what side Gran Turismo take. Maybe they go for a red side pick now, and they go, okay, listen, we're going to give Nippler a good matchup in top lane. I just have massive concerns for GT with how they seemed so desperate in the end of that game to make a play onto a 4,000 HP Kha'Zix. And I think that if you think you're catching this guy he hasn't gone squishy. He's got a Gore Drinker, he's got a Hydra, he's got a Moraman Mortius, he's got a Spirit Visage, he's got all the mobility in the world, he's got the healing from the W, he's got multiple invisibilities. Trying to pick something like that is very hard. So it's odd to me that you would just sort of let the game end in the way that it did, trying to get a pick onto an enemy jungler that's so mobile and so hard to pin down. going into this next one, they have to make sure they clean up these kind of decisions, because in the first game they look great. They looked really good pushing their advantages. And
Yes.
there's not much else to say. I think we're going to go to a break, right? Hopefully we fix your parsec, and we'll fix things for that. Going into game 3, we'll have to see if anyone else has any spicy picks coming out into this final game. The loser here does go down to the lower bracket, so we'll have to see, or the rather lower bracket of this group. So we'll have to see if they can make it happen. But see you guys in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We'll have to see what the teams want.
the drum to what we love. Risk the follow, we have felt it all come crashing down from far above. Stars are rising, countless worlds colliding, only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make the final call? We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, the champions of the world that we defy. A soul ray of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last light.
We're back for Game 3, Ruddy versus Gran Turismo.
Yes.
I believe we're getting straight into draft because these guys want to get going. They're feeling it. Ruddy's feeling it. Gran Turismo's feeling it. They want to get in as soon as possible, I believe.
Yes.
We'll have to see, but hopefully,
Oh, wow, look.
we're already railband. What?
Here we go. We're straight into the action.
It's straight in. I mean, we see GT have taken red side, right? So I guess the
Yes.
teams now really value this side. I mean, again, we were discussing about which side is stronger. Both teams clearly think that red is now the stronger choice.
Yep.
And do you think there's going to be any changes in bans at all?
Probably not. We alluded that it's probably going to be the same. I can imagine that GT will kind of go back to the Kaiser ban as well, just because, again, it just limits the pool that Ruddy really can pick from those kind of S tier ADCs. Obviously, they can't pick Xayah. Now they can't pick Severe. If they ban away Senna, which is probably going to happen soon. Come on, GT. You could do it.
You can do it.
Waiting.
You can do it.
Oh, okay. Maybe. Oh, Lee Sin. Okay, so maybe they're deciding to keep Kaiser or Senna open here. So we might see a differential from the GT side. That's the first time that we've seen any sort of notice of Lee Sin, really. It's not been picked, not been banned. So GT kind of just pulling that one. But Ruddy keeping the exact same bans that they had on red side. Rel, Tristana, Talia, probably champions they don't play, but really targeting the champ pool of Natty Nat here for GT.
I mean, maybe they just feel, again, this guy won't have anything left to pick, and maybe they also go into it. Look at how bot lane went early on in both of these games, right? They looked like Poison and Yepe were just out like 2v2ing, even level 1 against the side of Ruddy, Adebayor and Briefcase Man. So maybe they feel, listen, have the Kaiser. Have the Kaiser. You've got to, with the changes to Shiv, you've got to go this Umbral Glaive build. It's not as good. We don't care. And maybe they feel they're prepared and they got something ready for it. Because remember, these guys, they have the Xayah available to them if they want to. They have the Sivir available to them if they want to, because of the State of Fearless draft. So
Senna is also open. They didn't ban it away, so maybe we could see some Senna pairings coming out from GT. But no, as you said, they have the ability to pick Xayah because they haven't picked it so far. They cannot pair it with the Rakan, sadly. So Rakan will not be picked by either team in this situation. They can't pick Raum either. That was the champion that we saw Yepe play in the first game. But looks like we might see a Lilia pick. And Lilia has been kind of sleeper, really strong for probably 13.18 and potentially even now in 13.19.
And I've actually had the pleasure of casting Mixie's Lilia before, and I say pleasure. He didn't have a great time.
Oh,
but that
okay.
wasn't against another team this tournament, J-Ling. So there might have been a difference in opposition there, but he picks this Lilia up, maybe feels there's nothing left. They can't take the J4 against it, right? So you can't lock her down in that way. But we do see the Belveth. This is a champion that I've been hearing rumblings. This champion is disgusting, terrifying.
Yes.
And can be paired with Oriana as well to make this really disgusting combo of basically an unkillable Belveth killing your entire team. If you are this high rank jungler, maybe you're feeling, listen, I played the Kha'Zix last game. I put a big shift in that. It was us and me and Shihan. I'm going to take the Belveth this game and carry. This could just be farming, and seeing who's better in these kind of mid-late game team fights. But If nothing else
Yes.
gets a lead, his pathing has been very good so far, I think. Yeah, he's known where to be, obviously. He's a great jungler. Playing the Belveth means he could get those leads. We see the Nautilus come through, but there's no Braum available for the side of Yepe. They picked it game 1.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. They do have the Alistair. Obviously, the Alistair was in the hands of Briefcase Man in the last game. So again, it's one of those where the kind of support champ pool is very rotated around Nautilus, Alistair, Rail, Braum, those types of champions. We aren't seeing it divert too much in the kind of patches that we've had. So yeah, it's pretty stock standard for the bot lanes of seeing a Kai'Sa Nautilus and a Zaya Alistair when we take into factor the fearless draft that we have had and the champs that both teams can't pick. GT banning away the Aatrox. Will we see a ban? Well, we won't even need to see a ban of his Jax. I was just thinking that maybe they ban his Jax, but Shihan cannot pick that in this game. I just had to remind myself.
It's so weird, right? It's so weird with Fearless
Yes.
Draft. I can't imagine actually trying to remember all the champions you can and can't pick. And what it is interesting about Fearless is what we're seeing is that because you have to worry about banning, you just sort of keep banning this. You probably just keep banning the same things you were banning before
Yeah.
because you don't want to let them through anyway. So we see the
Yeah.
Darius go again. That was a ban that GT put through last game. We see the Irelia ban. That was also a ban that Ruddy put through second phase last game. And we'll have to see, if there's any variation. We do see a Yasuo ban. That is very interesting. That could signify to me that Ruddy want to go something weird, like an Ornn themselves, because Yasuo ban in mid lane, maybe for Mikma as well. They were concerned about these things. Yasuo, you're not going to expect Mikma to blind that champion. But now Nippler, you got to choose. Do you give Nippler, who had a horrible game last game? No, I can't sugarcoat it. Horrible game. Do you make him blind pick against Shihan?
Oh no! So it does. Well, it is a Yone, so I guess it could go in the top lane. But as you alluded to, I think in the first game, Mikma's Yone is something that he can pilot back to. Obviously, having a Lilia in the jungle as well, you want an AD. There's your Yone. So that obviously will give Nippler counterpick into Ruddy. I don't think we will see an Ornn, just because I don't think it's really the style that Ruddy should be going. Realistically, I think you've got the Kai'Sa, you've got the Nautilus. I think you want to kind of keep to the same themes from the last game, getting Shihan ahead, getting him stomping. He is the player with the majority of your experience at a high level. We are seeing a LeBlanc, so all of that spiel at the very start about LeBlanc being horrible, and thank God it's been put into the ground.
Oh, it's back.
It is back. She is back. We will have to see. Does Shihan want to put that into the top lane? No, he's going to go for the Cassante.
And I understand Cassante, 200 years champion, he is someone that is absolutely insane. I'm not the biggest fan of Shihan taking this purely, despite it being meta, purely because how well he played last game on a carry matchup versus this Gnar. I feel like Shihan was your main force in that early game, which then, as it got later, the game got very chaotic. GT made some sort of silly mistakes in jungle. Natinat got a few kills here and there. The Syndra looked good. But this game, Shihan is going back to Cassante, which isn't a weak side top, but you are... Wait, okay, never mind. I was going to say, if this was Cassante mid, I'd be jumping for joy. But right here, what Nippler's said is, okay, I don't really care. I'm just going to take Malphite. I'm just going to sit there opposite you, and I'm going to get whatever CS I can. Malphite naturally is very tanky, right? And so he's something where you don't have to worry too much if you are falling behind the massive amount of CS. You still have to be a bit concerned, but it's significant. You still have Unstoppable Force. You still have one of the best teamfight ultimates in the game. It's like a budget Ornn maybe for Nippler at this point, but still, it's odd to me that you would go to this Cassante because you can have a carry performance, but it's significantly harder to have these kind of carry performances on sides compared to something like that Jax that he piloted in game 2.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, looking at both compositions, there we've got the last kind of drafts for this game between Ruddy, Gran Turismo. They've given us 2 bangers. It seemed like both teams in both games were relatively in control. I can say maybe for game 2, Ruddy for the miss part had misplayed, but I think Shihan had it under control. It was one of those games where he's like, "Don't worry, guys, I'm really strong. We're winning this. Do not worry." Both games have gone very decisively in another person's way. We're obviously going into game 3, being a best of 3. This is the last game of the evening, so hopefully both teams can give us an absolute banger to end off.
And I mean, again, as you said, two bangers already, differing styles. This is what Fearless Draft seems to bring, right? We've had a little bit of an insight now. Not many people have watched any real tournaments with Fearless Draft. We get to see loads of different compositions here. We see some interesting champ picks. But going into this game 3, we're suddenly seeing there's a few new things here. The Belveth rising in priority. I've heard a lot of people really think this champion is very, very strong. But the LeBlanc coming back in on 13-19. It is nerfed. I have to see how well Cronin can play on this, because I would say that in the first 2 games, despite him having a decent Syndra performance, in that second game, he was not a carry. He was not something that it was off the back of Shihan and Natinat that game too. Cronin was there to provide the stuns and the CC for his team.
No.
We see a level 1. Is Cronin going to survive? Does have to distortion away, does get out, takes a lot of damage. This is just crazy that this hook is coming through. Yepe.
Right.
Cool. This is just a level 1 brawl.
No.
They don't care. Let's flip the game level 1, boys. There's just a little bit of damage back and forth. No one dies. Summoner's burned onto the Nautilus. Flash gone. Ignite gone from Yepe. And we're still going.
These teams do not want to kind of step away from what has made them really fun to watch these last 2 games. Sadly for Ruddy, the level 1 stuff hasn't gone their way for the most part. But if this is the level 1 for this game, Ruddy, please just take this. Don't go for any more crazy level 1 stuff. This is enough for this game so far. Please do not just blow it straight away like we witnessed in game 1.
Absolutely right. Like, I mean, so far we've seen some really, really temperamental level 1s in bot, as Nippler's going to be taking a little bit of damage here from the Cassante. Going to do a little bit of damage, not that much. It's about even trade overall. Nippler doesn't mind too much. He's playing this weak side top. He's being pathed away from by the Lilia. Briefcase Man misses the hook on the turret, but sometimes
Sad.
you miss stationary targets. But again, we've seen these really, really temperamental. I call them temperamental because it's just crazy level 1s in bot lane. I expect a bit less from GT this game. They are going to get level 2 first. So maybe we see a fight on level 2. They have to respect it, as Migma's been taken pretty low. It's just fighting. They just want to fight. They do not care.
Yeah, we're getting to that game 3 where both sets of players are just raring for a brawl. We are seeing Natty Nat in this bot side, and he is going to catch Hoyes, who's going to put down a ward. That's just going to be a knock-up and a hello from the enemy jungler there. Nothing really much more is going to really come from that. Natty Nat's wasted a little bit of his time making that play, but it looks like he's really wanting to make something happen here. Is going to look for something in mid. Chains do land. Will they connect? Lovely stuff into the knock-up as well. And that is first blood over to Natty Nat on this Belveth. And we said it was a very scary champ. There's been rumblings from CasuallyCutie about the power of this champion. We might be seeing it in the hands of Natty Nat in this game here.
Yeah, right. Giving what would many consider to be your highest ranked player. Briefcase Man taken very low. Is he going to fall here? He's 1
He
HP.
should do.
And he does fall in the end. Doesn't have that flash, right? He used it in that level 1 play that ended up going kind of nowhere in the mid lane. And so they do get the 2v2 kill here, GT. And this is kind of what you need to see. You just had a death in mid lane. Migma did fall. At least getting something back somewhere else on the map. Now you feel at least, okay, we're not going to have a situation where Belveth gets his first kill, runs top, then gets another kill. It's not going to happen. We are going to be able to at least stem the bleeding somewhere else on the map, get a bit of gold back into us. But this is another reason why you might just consider taking this LeBlanc. Yes, the nerfs, the chains early on are disgusting for gank setup. And we saw it there. Belveth really didn't have to do anything. Cronin just went, okay, here you go, have my mid lane on a silver platter once the chain's connected. And again, with how fast Belveth can farm, she could easily take over the game off only a couple kills. We do see Mixie actually taking away some of Belveth's camps here. So because of the fact that Belveth did show bot lane and then sprinted straight to mid lane, Mixie does know that these are going to be spawning before Natty Nat can have cleared his topside jungle. So he does get a little bit of a playoff here, Mixie, being able to take at least some gold away from this Belveth. They're looking in mid lane against Cronin. He does still have flash available, so nothing is going to end up coming down. But Mixie now is probably just going to go cycle his camps again and hopefully look for a play maybe on top. He's got to do something, I think, in this game because of the fact that Belveth is such a disgusting champion. Once she starts hitting those 1-2 items, you've got to do something. Putting her to sleep doesn't really matter when she presses E and has, 75-80% damage reduction? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it'll be as the game develops, we'll have to see how GT kind of play around, as you say, in the kind of power of this Belveth. really confusing play on that bot side. You would have thought at this stage in the series, after how game 1 and game 2 have gone for this Roddy bot lane, that they would kind of understand. They don't always win these 2v. Oh, that is just a solo kill in the top lane. That is something that we've seen quite a lot. Just as I was saying, surely the bot lane of Roddy have learned. I guess Nippler hasn't learned from the second game. And even on the Cassante, Shihan has killed Nippler 1v1.
And got the flash out as well. That seemed,
And got this flash.
it was a trade of flash for flash, but still, getting in that situation is a bit of a concern. When again, Nippler doesn't have the TP here either.
He doesn't have TP.
He doesn't have TP, so he's got to walk back to lane again, like he did in the second game. He isn't going to lose too much. He isn't going to lose too much this time. Not too much, but still, the only thing with this Malphite, right, is that he's a lot more consistently strong. As we see another gank in mid lane, Migma is caught out, is taken down. That's a disaster.
Yes, that is flash blown as well from the Yone. That is another kill gifted over to the Belveth. Belveth didn't have to use flash there. The flash was used by Cronin probably to land the chains. Again, it's probably one of those we didn't quite, but a lovely bit of CC layering. We are seeing some trading in the bot. Briefcase should survive this. Hopefully he doesn't go down for the second time in the bot 2v2. But yeah, Natty Nat, after the first game, there were a lot of question marks over his Jarvan, his proactivity across the map, but he and Cronin are linking up perfectly in this game 3. And it's one of those where this is realistically what Ruddy need to do in order to win. Belveth needs to be ahead in this game to try and take over, because I think Lily is just going to farm and farm, get really strong, but this Belveth needs to be proactive. It needs to get these kills on board so that it can become a really big powerhouse in this late game. But Mixie, you are on a ward taking those chickens, mate.
And he is getting locked up, gets the chains down upon him. Briefcase Man walks forward, looks for the root, does have the hook still available, but Migma is here to cover. The sleep does come through. Cronin is super low. They're just ignoring everyone else. They just execute Cronin, slice straight across their head. Briefcase Man will fall as well. So despite being on a ward, despite being CC'd, it wasn't enough to deal with that Lilia. She's going to be able to take away the chickens. She takes away the red buff, and she's chasing Nanny Nat out of his jungle. This is gone from being Nanny Nat making some great plays early to already, I mean, this is not what you want to be seeing. Like, you're meant to have got this lead. You're meant to have sat there, got these 2 kills onto her. But she's being forced out. She's down in levels. She's down in the experience. She's got to now make something else happen again. She's going to have to keep trying to make plays because Lilia will farm. And one good sleep could decide this entire game.
Yeah, the decisive part there is Ruddy did have first move from both bot and from mid, but the problem was Cronin was just not in a healthy state to be able to really do much there. You saw the instant he kind of went in, he was already at half health. By the time he had thought he had escaped, he was really low, and it's a really nice kind of ult there from the Lilia to be able to get the lockdown into the ult from the Yone, and that's just a kill over to this Lilia, who is now 2-0, and that is just a trade of ults from these top laners. But you can see that Shihan is still flexing his muscles in this matchup, and it's given him the priority to be able to help with this Rift Herald. So really nice play from Ruddy. They rotated Briefcase up there as well just to secure it. Adebayor is going to be absolutely fine in this bot lane, or he should be at least. Please don't die straight away. The Alistair is behind him.
Doesn't have six, though. I mean, they're going to look for this dive. They're still going to go, despite there being the killing strength. The flash had to be burnt out there by Adebayor. Without this 6 on Alistair, the dive is a little bit harder, but you do hope in some way that he does not die, because Ruddy bot lane, I think, in this entire tournament, what we're seeing already, like in these 3 games, I think will tell us a lot for the entire tournament. That this bot lane needs to be careful, because Hoy's Yepe isn't necessarily the best bot in the entire tournament, right?
No.
They aren't anywhere close to the best bot. And that's not being rude to them. We've got some excellent bot lanes in this tournament. And so if they are struggling in this way against the bot lane of GT, they have to be careful. But the dive in top lane against Nippler, he has enough mana, doesn't have the unstoppable force though. He's just going to be absolutely murdered. Shihan tanking, does get out, gets the form for the Belveth as well, is that level 6. As we see a 2v2 kill, which I don't actually understand how
it's all going up Ruddy now, boys.
Up the Ruddy.
Up the Ruddy. They have turned this around. This time it is bot lane being killed in a 2v2. Yepe is the down. Really nice play top lane, really nice juggling on the aggro there to be able to do it. Trying to dive a Malphite can always go one of two ways, really, but this gold is going to go straight over to this Belveth. And we were saying that they needed to do something in order to try and keep up with this Lilia, as this Lilia has just been farming, as you can see in the CS lead. So getting the plates over to the Belveth, getting the kill as well over to the Belveth, pretty nice. Nutty Nut will be very happy currently.
And despite falling in that bot lane 2v2, Yepe is back out on the map thanks to the Mobies. Isn't level 6 yet, but is going to maybe, you know, once he gets that, they're maybe looking for dives in bot lane, because they will probably be leaving Adebayor on an island in this game, you would imagine. They are around to cover at the moment. And, I mean, right now, I think if you're GT, you're worried about slowing it down, as Yepe has to X-Flash away, does get locked up, does actually have that level 6 coming through, does have the Unbreakable Will.
Got to try and burst him down.
Damage, but Reflex Man gets one shot. There's no damage to get through that damage reduction from the Alistar ult. Just not enough.
No. Oh, a kill in mid, though.
A kill in mid? Like, I feel like every time we see a fight somewhere else, we're watching a fight happening, one part of the map, immediately there's a play somewhere else. Immediately there's a kill happening on the other parts, where it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, you know, punch a punch. It just seems to be sometimes solo kills coming through as Cronin disrespecting the Lilia there. Malphite has unstoppable force. It doesn't matter. Just dead anyway. And this will be potentially a kill onto the Belveth, because there's not going to be anything that can really stop her here. Mixie has still got the stacks on the Lilia. Does pick up
all of the minions? No, we'll survive.
So close for that there. And a bit of a disaster. Ruddy, we set up the Ruddy. We've cursed it already. Mikma looking for this kill onto Shihan. Does have a lot of damage. Flash has to come through. You'd imagine there should be enough damage here. No, dash from Shihan secures himself his own life.
the shields from the Casanto
is enough.
Yes. Yeah. As you were saying, very disrespectful from Cronin. That whole kind of rundown was all on vision. You can see it right there in that bush. He had full notice that Nippler was going to be around there as well. So very disrespectful on that one. Looks like we are going to try and make a play onto Nippler. Lilia is here but doesn't have ult. We'll see if they've got enough damage to be able to kill the Malphite, as they definitely do there. So again, quite a really nice punish there from Ruddy, all on vision as well, so an understanding that they can make that play as well. But yeah, just a kind of series of very confusing plays at this stage as well. Hoyes has now picked up 2 kills and is pretty happy on that Kraken Slayer for the Xayah. Will be able to take the first tower of the game, so that is a nice little cash injection onto the Xayah, who really hasn't had to do too much to get ahead in this game. And already, look, that gold lead's just kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah, 2,000, almost 1.8, almost 2k gold. It seems to be the story of this series so far, is that Hoyes has got the better of Adebayor in most situations. I just want to quickly say, well, this game hopefully goes to a little bit of a quiet state here with everyone farming, that if you're going forward from this game, whoever does end up winning, obviously going into face, I believe either it's Veneer or Fourth Wall in that upper bracket of this group. If you are either of those teams, if you are watching this game, you sit there and go, their macro it's very sloppy, you know. There's a lot of random fights. It's not very clean League of Legends. And if you are someone like Fourthwall, who obviously they came out of their group in first position, they looked quite strong from play-ins, you've got to sit there and go, I'm pretty certain we can beat either of these two teams. We see a nice little trade here. Nippler does have to, unfortunately, some will force away. But I would be, if you are either Ruddy or GT, you cannot, I wouldn't say you're particularly happy with how this series has gone, right? Like you would say, like, you would watch these games, you're fighting, constantly fighting. But against better, more organized teams, this might prove a little bit difficult, where are you going to be enabling these teams to come down and, you know, fight you in this war? Hell just happened on my screen.
Nautilus is one of the best champs with his hook. That is Spider-Man at his full potential from Mr. Briefcase. I don't even think he'll understand what just happened there, but he is alive and he isn't dead, even though he was caught. So he doesn't care.
That was a good play, right? Because
worth.
It was completely worth. Unbelievable that hook actually drags him to safety. Anyway, but yeah, if you're either team here, you're looking at this, like, you've got a bit of time, right? I think you've got tonight, and then I think the next games are either tomorrow or Wednesday, right? Wednesday. They're Wednesday. So you've got at least one day where you can look at it and go, okay, maybe we need to clean up a little bit. While side laning, okay, these teams. Okay, Proda's told me these teams play Friday, which, if anything, gives them enough time to maybe get a scrim set in at least one. Maybe look at do some VOD reviewing, check to see, why are we devolving into these really messy games? You see here, like Migma's pushed up, Shiham will just fight him, but it's like it's almost like neither side of any of the side lane fights actually knows who is winning. Like, it seems to be like people are just fighting. They just go, well, we win it, obviously, and that's how it comes across. And if there's that sort of level where you're just brawling, that works great when you can drag enemy teams down to that level and brawl them. But when teams sort of don't accept it and look for these clean plays, sometimes you can't really just hand stiff people. And there are some really insane teams in this tournament.
No.
It's just... I mean,
there's definitely a lot to take away from these games. Obviously, we alluded at the very start that maybe the Ruddy roster hasn't had enough time to really gel together. We alluded that GT have also made a few changes. We are seeing the Rift Herald being summoned in top. Cronin was able to pick up the tower, the tier 1 as well, after the first initial Rift Herald was used up there, and it looks like they're trying to make a play on Nippler. That is a flash being blown, so that is a cross map on the dragon that is being taken by GT. So yeah, really nice understanding that they can get something else across the map, and they only lose, I guess, one dragon really for it.
Yeah, and I mean, you see here, Ruddy are just looking to fight. They're just brawling. Anytime they see anyone on the map, they're fighting, which, again, when they've got this Belveth who already has the 4 kills, is going to be working way towards what you'd assume to be that stride breaker. Getting more gold onto this champion is just absolutely insane. She can just carry fights. She has, 4 dashes, a really easy to land knockup, 75% damage reduction, whatever it is. I can't even remember off the top of my head. It's absolutely ridiculous damage reduction. She is going to be a carry in this game, and Ruddy, as soon as they see people, they go, listen, if we get one pick here, she gets the reset. She's just going to run people over. And so far, they've picked up the objectives. They've got, what they needed to get onto this Belveth. So if you're GT, I think you need to suddenly somehow figure out a way of playing these fights out, because Migma is currently being held on side by this Cassante, right? He's pushing out against him, not really joining these fights or any kind of fights that might be occurring. I mean, if I'm GT, it might all be on the back of Hoyes and Mixie this game, which seems to have been the tale of game 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big focal point for the rest of this game is going to be massively on these junglers. Both of them have had the early game to be able to impact the team later. So it's just going to be about who can really get the most out of the situations. Will it be Mixie with a really massive sleep? Will it be Natty Nat just being an absolute terror and a nuisance to your like Zayas, to your maybe even Yones, or even the Lilias at some stages in team fights as well? We'll have to see how that plans out as the game starts to kind of go into this. We're starting to go into the mid and late stage, as you were talking about, like lane setups and everything like that. We're starting to see kind of the matchups and stuff, and as you were alluding to, it doesn't seem like there's too much communication on who's the strongest out of them. It's kind of like Yones going into a lane against Cassante and going, wait, you're 2-0 and you're actually really strong? When did that happen? And it's just like, well, it's kind of been happening all game and no one's really dealt with him.
I was going to say, I was a bit concerned about the lane assignment from GT, but now they've actually fixed it. This Yone, like, the issue isn't so much Yone and the Cassante, it's a Malphite who's gone Thornmail first with steel caps, facing a full AP LeBlanc. Like, this is not the static LeBlanc, this is not static into Triforce AD LeBlanc, this is into Triforce AD, it's AP. So you can't really put the Malphite against that LeBlanc on side, because she just does so much damage constantly to him, and he's never really able to take those trades back into it. I mean, the other issue you have with this oh my god, this Malphite is he's going to struggle to do anything. He's going to unstoppable force away. They're going to try. They're just going to chase him down. He's not that strong.
No.
Yeah, he's only got this Thornmail, which realistically isn't providing him with that much in the way of stats when it comes against these teams. He's not gone for something like the Iceborne, which would reduce the damage in the 1v1. He's not gone towards the Jack Show, which make him very tanky in team fights. He's just sat on this Thornmail, and he's really struggling now. Like, it's a feels like the performance Nippler had in game 1 was because of the fact he'd got on to his Ornn, right? He got this Ornn, he could stonewall the lane, but now he's struggling when the skill comes through. As Briefcase Man is caught out in mid lane, you'd imagine this is going to be one dead Nautilus. It is. Adebayor is also the one being picked off, as Mixie is going to be very strong to be able to blow him up. They have to peel hit Hoyes. Hoyes has to stay alive. This guy has all of the damage coming out. They're kiting backwards. Mixie does not pick up Adebayor. Is he going to fall? No. Does dodge out on the Prey Seeker. Shehan on the backside ends up dropping. Ruddy are running away with the tail between their legs. Natty Nat's going to go, though. Natty Nat is looking to see if he can pick up Mixie on the top side.
No.
And Cronin, though, gets caught. Should not even be possible at that stage. Should be leaving.
No. He should be definitely ducking out of that one. The team fight has not gone too well for Ruddy. The play is there. Briefcase gets caught. Looks like Natty Nat's about to be caught as well. So Briefcase initially gets caught there, gets killed, and then they try and turn it with the TP coming in from Shihan, Cronin as well. But they just can't get onto this Xayah, and that's going to become a massive issue if they can't really. But we are seeing.
He's getting picked up.
He's got it!
It's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster for the side of GT. They had everything in their back pocket, but now Migma has to go huge in this fight. He's killing them all.
Oh, no.
Migma's killing them all.
Oh god, where do we even start with these series of play? I mean, that pushes Mix like so far away from the Baron pit, and then GT just suddenly start it up without him being near. Great play, obviously, from Natty Nat. The team fight looks so good, and then all of their damage just seems to have just disappear in an instant, and the team fight just instantly turns as that's a lovely minion stuck on the tower there. But yeah, I mean, the Baron buff survives on your 2 solo laners, so I guess you have side lane pressure with that as well. So overall, Ruddy will not be disappointed with those series of play, especially how bad the mid play did end up being for them. But yeah, I mean, actually, LeBlanc doesn't have Baron buff. Only Cassante does.
Yeah, it's just a bit. I mean, that play, like the Belveth was already there as they go look for.
That's not what you want.
I don't think that's what you want to go in to see, my guy. He's still alive somehow. He's actually lived. Shihan flies in to save his support. GT are trying the best they can here. Shihan is locked up. Really not the play he should be looking for. Briefcase Man also now unstoppable force. So what looked like Ruddy should be making phases. Oh my god, he's just dead.
Wow.
This
is a death board being set up from GT. Really nice back-to-back plays. Obviously, the Baron, you can maybe say it was a bit of a hiccup or whatever. But really nice back-to-back plays on that. The hook landing on the Malphite. Worst person. You really want to be hooking in that situation. He's not going down anytime soon. And as we were saying, that Shihan is the only one to survive with the Baron buff, and he can use that to pressure the side lane. He ends up getting caught as well as he tries to save the life of his support.
It's just not what you want to be seeing if you're the side of Ruddy. Like, you manage to steal the Baron away, you sort of stop that pressure from occurring, you give yourself more time, you maybe have been able to push out sides with this Cassante, which again, I was saying back to draft, I was saying it surprises me Shihan having such a carry performance in that first game is now playing. Yes, Cassante can carry, right? But he isn't the Jaxes of the world, you know? He isn't someone that is going to be able to 1v9 an entire game. He can sometimes do it, but especially with nerfs and meta changing things, it's significantly harder. And then he was playing this into stuff like the Lilia, but unfortunately, it looks like Yepe is caught. Does have that damage reduction from the ultimate, but will end up falling. There are 4 members. Very hard to survive that one.
Yes.
And this seems to have been, this series, a tale of getting caught again. It just seems to be that people are walking in thinking either they're not going to be there, or they have the backup of their team, or they just sort of flip the game on it. And it's not something that you can do consistently. We're seeing that GT, who looked like they had pressure again, now they don't have one of their primary engaged champions. They have, obviously, Malphite, but Alistair is someone who's been doing an awful lot in these fights, knocking people away, peeling off of the Xayah, you know, things like this. He's not available. So now they just sort of stand around, waiting for Size to push in. It's not what you want to be doing when you suddenly have seemed to have got such a lead off of the plays that had happened around the Baron, obviously with the fact that even though it was stolen, you managed to pick those skills up, and then plays around mid lane with Briefcase Man going in when he shouldn't. It's not looking good right now for either side. To be honest, it's like back and forth, right? When I say not looking good, it's like one side seems to be like, okay, we're in firm control of this game, and then they make a throw, and then one of their players hooks in or throws their body in there thinking they can make a play. Then it looks like, oh well, actually no, now that Shihan's died, there's no Baron. GT look like they've got a play, and then Yepe gets caught. It's so back and forth, but not in the way that you'd say would be back and forth. It's not like people are making plays; it's people are just capitalizing on misplays.
Yeah, we are watching a prime tennis match. It's like we're at Wimbledon with the amount of back and forth and side to side our heads are having. As we try and praise one team for making a really good play, they remind us that we are watching NLC. And we're not watching LCK or LPL where they play a game called League of Legends. We are watching something completely different at times, but that's why we love it. That's the quirkiness of what we have as the NLC. Try and beat that career.
Exactly.
You'll never have Briefcase Man on Nautilus
on
cooking.
Ruddy, right? You don't have Ruddy in LCK. That's all I'm saying, right? I think he's going to have a hard time. Okay, he does flash out. Yepe does have to burn the ultimate. He is very tanky, obviously, with that damage reduction, so he's going to get out as well. But you don't have Briefcase Man hooking on Nautilus on Ruddy. That is true, and I think there's something that LCK and LPL could never take away from us. In fact, if anything, they may be better, but who had more fun? You know what I mean? Like, Ahoy's is being caught now, though, as he does end up getting out with the flash. and as we all know, back to what I was going to say, video games about having fun. So, that's all that matters, of course.
Exactly. As long as we can watch and get something out of it, which is just enjoyment, and that's going to be an ult from the Kai'Sa, knocked into under the tower. The TP is coming in. This is the LeBlanc coming in. We are seeing a massive play and a commitment from the Ruddy side onto this tier 1 as well.
Mixie,
the double knock-up
is getting locked down, doesn't have any way of surviving, does get shot down by Shihan. The sleep doesn't really matter at all. So what look at GT winning again. Now suddenly Mixie's dead. Mazol goes wide, tries to get out of Bayor, does get locked down, does get blown up.
Nice.
So I don't know who's actually was winning this game before, but it looks like Ruddy firmly favoured now. Shihan's killed himself. No. Shihan has killed himself. Yepe is still alive. He doesn't end up falling. This could be a Belveth pop-off moment. Hoyes has come back into the fight. Never mind. There goes Natty Nat, blown up as well. This is just so back and forth, and it's just...
how do you do anything with this? It's a very confusing set of plays. And after all of that, the tower lives. If you ask me, tower was the MVP of that whole play.
Yes.
If we could get a scorecard of how much damage the tower was putting out, I guarantee it's up there. So, GT live and die by this tower. It is not falling down anytime soon. They will TP as many members as they need to protect their tower.
They will literally defend it with their lives. Yeah. Like, they will throw themselves in there. I mean, at this point, Cronin has got to a point, though. I want to say, look, on a slight serious note, Cronin is getting to a point here. Once he picks up what looks to be maybe a Shadow Flame with the items he's got in his inventory, he's going to do the classic, LeBlanc gameplay of dashing forward, looking for a small combo, dashing back out again, maybe poking down Hoyes. So GT do have to be a little bit worried about, being whittled down by something like this LeBlanc, as you see, a little bit of chip onto Jeppe. But this is just another fight they're just going for. Jeppe is so tanky. They still have the Unstoppable Force, so they're still waiting to use it. Can Nippler get in? He gets a 3-man. Oh, it's absolutely huge, but there's no more damage follow-up. But Shihan is 1 HP on the backside, does get picked up by Mikma. This is just absolute chaotic fight as Natty Nat goes in, gets picked up by Hoyes. It's just what we're fighting. We're just going to keep on going. Cronin is super low. Does end up looking like he's going to get out. Doesn't matter. That's the Zonias. Give it to the cow. Never mind. Mixie picks it up. That was just a lot of patience being shown by Nippler there. Huge Unstoppable Force delaying the fight. Shihan not able to get anything done on this Cassante. And that will be Dragon and Baron. That is Soul for GT. And this is Cloud Soul. Not the best, but it is pretty damn good on their team comp.
Yeah, it's a really nice comp for GT to obviously have the movement speed and everything that comes along with that, the cooldown on ults and everything like that comes with it as well. They're going to pick up the Baron as well. Massive fight from GT. We haven't seen too much in this game where we've had an explosion of something of this magnitude. It does very much seem that this could be the kind of last thing that breaks Ruddy's back in this game. They'd held Defiant for quite a long time, being able to kind of retaliate to plays and be able to come out relatively even on most of the kind of decisions GT or Ruddy had made. But yeah, it's a massive play from GT, really able to hold out in their patience and their peeling of their main carries. It didn't seem at any point like Hoyes or even like Mikma or Mixie were really in much danger. The tanks of Nippler and Yepe were just able to hold the front line, and it just did seem like that. It just did seem like Ruddy just couldn't make that last bit. So we're going to see a fight in the mid lane. That's Yepe.
This man misses hook, has to flash. They're at least getting the huge knock up through. Mixie is in the middle of everyone. Can Nainat pick up the kill? He's getting knocked up. Belveth can't make anything happen. Yepe has to be a bit careful here because he does get the reset for the Belveth. She's going to be coming in. She's looking for anything she can. Nippler has to Ensemble Force away. They're killing everyone. What the hell is happening in this game, Kaya? How the hell? GT, who had such a clean team fight around the dragon, suddenly thrown it all away again.
I can't.
Mikma's going in. Oh my god.
What a huge Yono from Mikma. I mean, worth GT? No, not at all, really. But yeah,
it's like I'm watching the old Bob Ross Twitch streams where they just chant, "It's saved, it's ruined, it's saved, it's ruined," over and over and over again. Like this is, it's just chaos in every fight. Like what seems to be is that both supports just want to fight. They're just going in on cooldown. You know, the hooks will always come through. The engages from Alistair as Mixie is running around, literally running them around. There is no ultimate. Briefcase Man's going to be in a second. Mixie is picked up. That is not what you want to see. That is a huge carry down for the side of GT. So we win the dragon fight. We then lose the next fight. We then get an incredible play by Mikma to pick up 2, and then Mixie decides, listen, I think you actually deserved to win the previous fight. Here, have my corpse. It's just constantly back and forth. But again, it's not in a way where your teams are. Yes, there are teams making plays, but it seems to be back and forth in the way that it's throw and counter throw. And and this is something where we've got. Whichever team can clean up, like in the next couple of team fights, could just take away with the game. As I mean, this Belveth, who was so strong early, 4-0, I think, early on in this game, now only 6-4-9. That's not good enough for a champion that had been given so much of the early resources. Really, like they should have been a snowball coming out from the Belveth. Didn't end up happening, is what it is. But she's now in a situation where her team fighting isn't necessarily the best against so much.
Hello.
She dashes into Nippler. She's going to be looking, but GT are going to
don't want this.
You don't know what this Adebayor does dodge out. Briefcase Man getting locked up. Is he going to fall? I think he will. No, there's not enough damage. I'm actually shocked how tanky this Nautilus has ended up being. He's not even running, Aftershock. He has only got that Glacial, but they must be doing so much work to keep him alive. Shihan pushing on side, but I mean, Mixie will be happy to take this fight. Lilia versus these kind of tanks. Somehow Adebayor has been caught out in his own jungle when 4 members will have been on vision, or object permanence is a thing. They were still there. I don't understand how the ADC has died, but we'll have to have figured that one out later. As right now they're just running it down through mid lane.
Mixie kills Shihan.
Shihan has fallen. It's a 3 versus 5. The knockup! The knockup is absolutely huge. Hoyes is just putting out so much damage though. If they can kill the wave, Cronin. Cronin needs to get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Oh my god! Sorry, what is happening? I actually don't understand what they're doing. This should not be the case. This should never be happening. Oh my lord! Cronin is trying his best to pick up Hoyes. Hoyes isn't allowing it. It's still a 3 versus 4. Mixie is coming in. Nice flash coming out as well. The double knockup. Natty Nat is being CC'd. There's just no way that the ult goes wide from Mikma. It's just chaos. Briefcase Man is still alive somehow. In comes back Adebayor. He's going to be able to do a bit of damage here. At least, him by himself, he's now got to defend. Can he pick up Hoyes? He does. Gets the flash away. Nippler does absolutely nothing to this Kai'Sa. This Kai'Sa has to be so careful. Oh, but Mixie is trying... They're just on using. They're chilling. Relaxing. Oh! Dead. What is going on? What is happening? She hands back. He has to defend the base. He's got to do it. They're running him around.
Lilia's running.
Okay, but now he's got the ult. He's got the dashes.
He can't get to them.
He can't get to them.
He's stuck.
He's stuck.
Oh no, this is so sad for Roddy.
Oh no.
How does it end like this?
Oh no. Oh no. How has it ended in such a... Like, this fight was game was just fighting back and forth. Crazy fight. I actually cannot believe that the game end ends up being that Mixie picks up Shihan on side. There's a pick on Adebayor randomly in bot side jungle. And then it's just, there are turrets available. But GT just keep fighting and fighting and fighting. And you could argue that this game was messy, but this is the best that the NLC can bring. This is what we expect from the NLC.
Exactly.
Just absolute, just brawling team comps fighting over and over again, and utter chaos. But going forward will be GT.
Yes, so obviously going forward, GT will be 1 win away from promoting on to the next stage. So stage 3, when we go into a knockout stage where we will be getting our best of 5s. So they're 1 win away. They'll be awaiting the winners of Veneer versus 4-4, which will be happening on Wednesday on this very channel. So obviously, if you want to find out who Gran Turismo will be facing, obviously for Ruddy, they have a lot to work on. There was some really nice stuff from that game too, and even in game 3, I thought for the best part they played really well. I thought that Natty had a really decent performance on the Belvev, especially pairing up with Cronin on the LeBlanc. There were some really nice things early on. So we'll have to see if they can kind of bounce back from this defeat.
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest fear they have for this group, at least, is that we know on the other side of what is a relatively small bracket with Veneer and Fourth Wall waiting. Fourth Wall did look really good in play-ins. They went 5-1, I believe, in their group. They looked like they had a lot of ideas about compositions. We'll have to see, if those compositions for them translate into with Fearless Draft, whether they can pull those kind of comps off, or whether they're relying on a few two or three champions. I think we saw here like Nippler, him on Ornn versus him on other champs. I feel like going forward, GT need to prioritize on making sure that he has the weak siding top laners playing around what looks like it'd be a very strong bot lane. But even then, you've got in the southern side of the bracket. Fourth Wall, to me, in this group at least, seems to be someone that I'd be a bit concerned about, especially if they're feeling it. They could be, they've come out of play-ins, they looked really good. So, on the other side here, you've got Ruddy, who will be falling to that lower bracket, that losers game. Interested to see where they feel they can go with this roster, because it looked to me like they just want to fight and fight and fight, right? And certain teams like Veneer. The roster for Veneer is pretty much the same one, wasn't it, for the one they had in Div 1? And
exactly the same, just different support. Yeah,
it's just different support. And so you have a team that has experience in Veneer. Yes, they weren't that good necessarily in the regular season in NLC Div 1, but they have the experience as an org and as 4 members of a team on playing more controlled League of Legends. You can't just hook into those kind of teams because they will hard punish you for everything you're doing. If I'm Ruddy, I've got a few days now, I've got till Friday, maybe look to clean some stuff up. But then again, maybe I don't want them to clean it up because games like this are just so chaotic and so fun.
Yeah, I mean, obviously to clean aspects up in order to try and progress further. Obviously, they'll be able to watch the game on Wednesday to get an idea of the other teams in their kind of group. But yeah, very, very interesting set of games. Obviously, Turismo come out with the 2-1 win, so they, as we said, will move on. For them, they have not been perfect tonight. They will definitely not be feeling maybe the best about that game 2, and maybe even aspects of game 3. Game 1 did look like a pretty comfortable game for them with a lot of control in the game. But yep. Try and keep to the positives, try and look at those things that you can improve, and hopefully we should be seeing another banger on Friday when we see them next.
I mean, absolutely right, and it will be on Friday. This is when the next group plays, but I believe we're going to have a game on Wednesday. Same place, Temporal stream. Thank you, Temporal, for obviously hosting here. Neither of us are Temporal, as you can probably tell. But next time, we'll have to see who can win out of, I believe it will be Veneer versus Fourth Wall.
Yeah.
And so that's the next game. Everyone who's in chat, come back for that game. It's going to be exciting, and hopefully we'll see you there.